this special meeting of the City of Highland Park Plan and Design Commission to order. Okay, well, hopefully everyone else can quiet down as well. All right, I'm calling the City of Highland Park special meeting of the Plan and Design Commission to order. It is August 26, 2025. Please call the roll. Director Fontaine.
Commissioner Incheck,
Here.
Commissioner Fettner,
Here.
Commissioner Nanis,
Here.
Commissioner Henry,
Here.
Commissioner Mantis,
Here.
Vice Chair Kirsch, Chair Moore.
Present.
We have a quorum, and I'd like to recognize City Council Liaison Yumi Ross and Corporation Counsel Marcus Martinez. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right. Our first item of business is to approve the meeting minutes from the last meeting, which was the regular meeting on August 19th of 2025. Do we have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Okay, motion by Vice Chair Kirch, seconded by Commissioner Henry. Do we have any discussion on these minutes? Anybody find anything out of order?
Chair, if I may, I'd like to propose a change. I read a statement at the last meeting on packet page 3, line 40. I did not direct concerns be brought to the city council directly, so it's only to the city manager's office.
Okay, so with that change, do the motioner and the seconder agree to that change?
Agreed. Agreed.
Okay, so the motion is on the table to approve the minutes with that change. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays?
Abstain.
Oh, we have an abstention because we have a commissioner who is not at the meeting. All right, thank you. Okay, the only item of business tonight that's scheduled is reopening the public hearing PUD-2025-00041 for a special use permit in the nature of preliminary and final plan development, rezoning to RM1 and R7, plat of re-subdivision, design review, and modifications from city code for a 240 residential unit townhome development at 1660 and 1700 Old Deerfield Road. Mr. Burhop, could you please update us as to where we are?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. My name is Carl Burhop. I'm a senior planner with the City of Highland Park in the Planning Division and the Community Development Department. Good evening to everybody. Thank you for being here. So this is stated as for an application for to rezone, preliminary plat, preliminary PUD, and design review for 1700 Old Deerfield Road, of the former Solo Cup site. So this is an update and reflects the current status of the application. Are you able to hear me okay? No, not really. Okay. Okay. Oh, there we go. Thank you for raising your hand. All right. So this is the subject site. This slide is the same as it was July 29th. So this is a proposal for a 232 residential townhome unit project and 49 assemblies with the club and pool amenity structure. Proposed changes to the Old Deerfield Road with the left-hand turn lanes. Additional preserving of landscaping on site and open space along the west and south peripheries of the development, and additional parking and landscaping provided. commission consideration. So what is being considered before the commission this evening? The following requests. So one is the rezoning request. Two is the preliminary plat of re-subdivision, which is to consolidate the property. And then the special use permit in the nature of a preliminary plan development with modifications from city code and design review. And I do want to point out that the applicant did indicate to staff in writing that they had amended their application. So this is for preliminary approval. So preliminary plan development and preliminary plat with those other two. So this is the 5th public hearing. This was at April 1st, May 20th, June 24th, and July 29th. On July 29th, the commission by vote 4-3 directed staff to bring findings of fact recommending approval for these requests. Those findings are in the packet with staff recommended conditions of approval. So the first condition is related to a determination of no further remediation from the IEPA. In accordance with best practices and state requirements, and submit proof at the appropriate timing in accordance with the phasing plan. The second condition, the applicant shall provide final engineering and other drawings and plans as appropriate for the changes and improvements on the police department property. The applicant shall provide exterior lighting specification information compliant with Article 6 of the zoning code and at 3,000 Kelvin color correlated temperature with the final PUD submission. Staff does have one amendment to that here, and that amendment is that the applicant shall revise the light poles in the exhibit in the area that they're proposing to rezone to R7 to bring them down to 7 feet in height, thus that they would not ask for any exterior lighting relief. And then on this page, must amend the plans as appropriate to depict signage for no parking zones at garage and parking locations where appropriate, so that there can be fire access. The conservation easement on the proposed plat must be amended to align with SMC, Lake County SMC practices as appropriate. The applicant must provide species inventory of plantings with final PUD. And then finally, this is another amendment. This is the second. So this is a new staff recommendation. The height of the townhome unit shall not exceed the 42 feet 11 inches from grade adjacent foundation to the peak of the roof, nor exceed 37 feet 11 inches from grade adjacent foundation to the mean distance between the peak of the roof to the eaves, essentially meaning it holds the applicant to the elevation plans that are in the packet. Okay, this is the site plan. This is the most recent version. I just marked the setbacks along the west and the south. This is the rezoning exhibit showing the R7 zoning, the RM1, and then keeping that strip I. Of course, that's not a rezoning. The property is already zoned I. The rest of it is a request to downzone part of it to RM1 and to downzone part of it to R7. This slide has been in every presentation. Always I just direct the commission to remember the neighborhood and the context that is around the subject property. Okay, updates and changes. There are only a few. So the applicant did add a 6-foot high ornamental open metal fence, black in color, along the west side of the westernmost townhome units facing Ridge Road. So those are the ones that abut the open space on the west. Signage details were provided. Downlights are proposed. I have one slide on that. The elevation plans were amended to include additional height dimensions. And then there were some changes to the landscaping plans. More details were provided for the dog park. And they're providing 21 more trees, and they reduced the shrub count by 2. Again, that's out of over 2,000 shrubs being provided. The site is compliant with landscaping code in Article 22. These are the signage details. It's a 5.1 high foot monument sign. The actual sign is 14.8 square feet in area. This was also in the packet in the applicant's landscaping plan. There are downlights proposed on it. There is a modification for the sign. I have that in the modification list. Because this would be at 3 locations with, I believe, 5 total sign faces at 3 locations. Okay, modifications. So I have this in 2 lists. This list here are the modifications triggering public benefit submission and review. It's the height relief. That is what is the request that triggers public benefit. And I have another slide on this. The applicant is asking for 6 feet of height relief. The units will vary between 3 to 6 feet above the zoning requirement of 35 feet. And then the The clubhouse also exceeds the accessory structure limit of 15 feet. It's proposed to be 25 feet. Okay, height. So I'll switch back and forth between this and the, well, I'll just run through this. So the units on the north side of the property, that's the high end. They'll be 41 feet in height. As a reminder, that is near or butts the I-light industry, where the max height limit is 45 feet. The property as zoned right now is I, which allows 45 feet in height. Property generally slopes down as it goes south. And so height relief for the southernmost units will be 3 feet, being that they're 38 feet in height. At the closest, the setback from the southernmost townhome unit is 210.33 feet from the closest residential property line to the south. And of course, it opens up, the setback increases for the other units. In between, the height relief is between 3 to 6 feet. That's why staff proposed a condition related to that. And then contextually, if you're just standing there, at the sidewalk or driving by on the streets, the private streets they propose, just what does it actually look like from grade adjacent foundation to just the peak of the roof? That are the heights and the elevations, 42.75 feet and 42.92 feet. So this was an exhibit the applicant had in there, and that just kind of shows it from top to bottom, goes north to south, and it just shows how the property gradually slopes. And how at the top there, the 6 feet relief is requested, but if you go down to the bottom right around the red box, the relief is reduced to 3 feet. These were in the exhibit. These were actually in prior packets as well. So it just shows on the left what the lowest is, which is on the south end, and what the highest is on the right end. And these are elevations that were included in the packet and included updated dimensions along the left side, which includes the peak elevation. Other modifications from the zoning code, so there's the one for no loading spaces, the signage, the landscaping requirements, the one to the environmentally sensitive areas, and then the one regarding access from a commercial industrial zoning district to the residential zoning district. These haven't changed. These have been before the commission before. Modifications from the subdivision code, these haven't changed either. These have been before the commission before. First one is to not install sidewalks along Ridge Road. There will be sidewalks along Old Deerfield Road. Instead, the applicant asked to do the woodland path along that area. There's the second one there to allow a consolidated property with not more than 4 sides and with intersecting lines not at right angles. That is a pre-existing condition for the existing property. And finally, not to bury utility lines in the right-of-way. Okay, public benefit. These six are also the same from July 29th. These are the ones that the applicant has proposed. So it gets to improving, providing public access easement for ingress and egress over the northeastern spur access road running along the railroad from Richfield Avenue to Old Deerfield Road. The applicant proposes to provide 14 off-street parking spaces and a parking lot for the police department's use located across the street from the police department. Proposes 12 parking spaces for public use on the spur access road. Sharrows added on Old Deerfield Road adjacent to the site, and also sharrows on the spur access road to support bicycle traffic and movement. Improve Cavell and Richfield and Winthrop and Devonshire intersections with pedestrian crosswalks, and then provide a public easement for the tot lot. Okay, traffic impact review. This was already reviewed July 29th at that presentation and in the report. The applicant does not propose, but there was a review of what if there was a third access point along Ridge Road. So this is the applicant. These summaries here, these are the determinations by the applicant's traffic consultant. Again, they were reviewed by City Planning and Engineering Division and also by the city's third-party traffic reviewer, Civil Tech. So third access along Ridge Road at Devonshire Court would capture about 10% of the development's traffic. Would reduce by less than 2% the turning movements during weekday morning and evening peak hours at the Old Deerfield Road and Ridge Road intersection. Overall would have a very limited impact, if any, on the operation of the Old Deerfield Road and Richfield Avenue intersections. And of course, the full report, which I believe was, well, I don't remember how long it was. It wasn't more than 3 pages, but it was in the packet. Again, the city's third-party traffic consultant agrees with the applicant's conclusions. That has to be weighed against, that would require wetland consideration for a new access to go along the west side to Ridge Road. It would also require an amendment to a covenant, which I'll talk about, more impervious and tree considerations. So there is a restrictive covenant for this property. And as a consideration for the council, The council will have to determine if this should be amended. There's a 1965 restrictive covenant. What would need amended is the third bullet point. So that covenant does not allow access onto Ridge Road if one was proposed, which none is. That would have to be amended. Also, the covenant would need to be amended to allow the proposed primary access on Old Deerfield Road, as what the applicant proposes is about 158 feet from Ridge Road, and the requirement, according to the covenant, is 200 feet. Now, that's not zoning code, that's from this restrictive covenant. There was questions at the last meeting about additional interior greening around the clubhouse amenity area. The applicant responded to that, so these are just summary of the applicant's responses. The proposed plan provides access to the front of townhomes for deliveries, guest access, and emergency vehicle access. The number of parking spaces throughout has been carefully considered. And the central parking around the clubhouse is critical to clubhouse use for residents that will live further south or for events at the clubhouse for guests. Again, those are the applicant's responses to that. Police department property and other city comments. So there's a condition of staff approval that these plans, which these right here were included in the packet, but they have to be finalized, final engineering, et cetera, if this moves forward, as well as the applicant to work with appropriate road agency for access on a Deerfield Road, emergency access on a Deerfield Road. Again, the applicant proposes turning lanes here to accommodate for traffic, both existing traffic as well as proposed from the development. I do have a staff report correction. The city comments were included in the staff report, and there are no other updates for city staff comments. Landscaping and exterior lighting, as I already stated, there's a new ornamental open type black colored fence proposed along the western side of the western units. This is the updated shrub and landscaping count. Everything complies with the code and is surplus. The applicant increased the number of trees. I think that's because it looked like they're removing less, and so there were fewer replacements, and so those just counted towards the landscaping requirement. And then I already discussed about exterior lighting, that will be a condition of approval. There were lighting materials in the packet. There was a foot candle exhibit. The site does comply with foot candles. The setbacks being in excess of 200 feet along the southwest and the south, except for the one point for the assembly right by the entrance where the setback is closer to 100 feet. You know, that distance means that by the time the light travels to the property lines, it has a 0-foot candle. And along the north and the east, those don't abut residential properties. They abut either industrial or railroad, which is zone industrial. They still comply with those foot candles as well, though those readings were somewhere between 0 and 1. Inclusionary zoning, this is for the affordable housing. So on July 2nd, the Housing Commission recommended approval, I should say final approval, forgive me, recommended final approval. Then on August 6th, the Housing Commission recommended approval of the amended project with a reduced unit count. You may recall the units went down from 240 to 232, of which 36 on site affordable went down to 35. And the cash in lieu payment remains the same of 1.2. That is my presentation. So just these last three slides are just reiterated. That's just the request before the commission. And then this is a reiteration of the conditions of approval as well as the 2 amendments in red. Thank you. I can take questions if there's any.
Do we have any questions from the commission for staff? Commissioner Henry.
Yeah, Carl, at the beginning of your presentation, you indicated this is just a preliminary.
That's
not a final.
That's
So-
right. The
So my
applicant-
question is, can you explain the difference between a preliminary and final, and what happens if, let's say, the board recommends to the council approval of the preliminary? Does the final come back to us and we have to review that as well? How does that work?
That's right. So there's a couple things, as always, to be said, but there's basically 2 things to say. So the major difference between preliminary and final for what the applicant has to submit is that final engineering does not have to be done with preliminary, but final engineering does have to be completed with final. So that's one difference. The other difference is that if a preliminary then comes back for final, at the final stage, it still has to go to the Plan and Design Commission but it's only for a public meeting unless there's new modifications or new relief that are needed. Then it has to come back for a public hearing. So it goes to the Plan and Design Commission in both cases. There's the distinction between a public meeting versus a public hearing. The idea being if they come back for final and the final engineering's done and all the other plans are the same, then you review it, you verify that, and then it goes to City Council.
Thanks, Carl.
Thank you. Any more comments or questions? Oh, Vice Chair Kirch.
It's been a while, so I couldn't find it when I was going through the notes. How are the rec center portion and the pool, are those considered open space or not?
I would have to double check. I believe so. Well, there's different ways to count that. In terms of the recreational requirements in the PUD code, I believe they are. When I go to sit down, I will verify that in the code.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, it certainly counts against the lot coverage requirement, obviously. So that's why when you say open space, there's different ways to measure that.
Okay. Does the applicant have anything that they would like to present to us today?
Thank you. Good evening. Katie Jenkey-Dale from DLA Piper. We represent the applicant. We don't have a formal presentation, but we do have all of our consultants here and ready to answer any questions or respond to comments as needed or directed by the commission. But we just want to thank you again for all the time that you've put into reviewing this over the last 5 meetings. But no formal presentation from us unless there are questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for our applicants? All right.
Well, actually,
sorry.
if I don't, I'll ask it again. Are these going to be condos or rentals? And is there some chance they would be what we've talked about as attainable housing?
Again, the zoning code doesn't distinguish between rental or condo, and so we are locking into the unit mix, and it will be dictated still by the market. If we were to break ground tomorrow, we would expect it to be mostly rental, but if that market shifted and I think I am. All right, thanks for the feedback. I'll start over. So the zoning code does not distinguish between rental or condo. So we are locking into the overall unit mix, and it will be dictated by the market, whether they are rental or condo or some combination of the two. As we sit here today, we think that the market would dictate more rental, but if next year when we're entering into another phase or in the future phases, we may have a mix, and again, the code does not distinguish between the two product types. We do think that in addition to the 35 affordable, legally restricted affordable units, the either rental rates or sale rates will be dictated by the market and will provide additional housing product that is not currently in supply in Highland Park and that there is demand for.
So you have an idea of what the rental rates might be?
Again, that will be dictated by the market when we go to rent or sell the units.
I'm just curious who your lender is. I mean, I imagine they do distinguish between condos and rentals.
Yeah, we haven't selected a lender yet. We need to get the zoning approvals before we can lock in.
So you haven't approached anybody about financing?
We've started preliminary discussions, but zoning is critical in order to have any, real discussions or talk about terms, etc.
Thank you.
I had a question.
Yes, Commissioner Fetner.
Since the last meeting, there was a number of neighbors to the north, I believe, and I know there's potential having discussions to speak with them, to hear their concerns. Have any of those discussions or community outreach been done since the last meeting?
We have had continued conversations with the holder of the parking easement. Those have continued up until as recently as late last week, I think was the last time we were, and we are committed to continuing those discussions. The additional, I think it was 2 meetings ago, where we added the 12 parking spaces along that access road. Those were in response to neighbor conversations. and requests for that parking in that location. Am I missing any additional ones? Right, and then the the additional setback relief to the north also was in response to conversations with those neighbors. So we've been in discussion. We continue to be happy to continue those, through approvals and throughout construction and operation of the project.
Okay, and I know there was, so you have been having discussions with then some of the neighbors that have had issues and concerns and gone over those with them?
Absolutely. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but we've responded anytime someone has reached out. We've been willing to meet with them. We held that community meeting. There's been no request to meet that we've not, agreed to.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Okay. Before we go to public comment, I think Mr. Burhop had some comments for us on some comments that came in.
First, I just want to make sure I respond to Vice Chair Kirch's question. As I said, I would on the recreation.
Oh, thanks.
So just real quick, it depends actually. It's up to the commission and the council. So I'm reading from the PUD section of code. I'm reading from section 150.530 under the common open space section under subsection R. And so essentially it's up to the commission and the council to, if they want to accept that area as open space. The applicant's plan, yes, does count it towards their 42.5% requirement, and it's up to the commission if they want to accept that as part of the open space.
Thank you.
Chair,
Yes.
I have a question.
Okay,
Is
so
my mic
Councilmember
on?
Ross would like to ask a question.
Thank you. Is this on? Okay, I don't know if people can hear.
It's on, but I would speak a
Yeah,
little bit
speak a
louder.
little louder. My question is, and I ask this because of a recent project that the first phase was completed, but the second phase was not, and it waited for years for it to, it was dropped by the first developer. Another developer years later came in to finish the project. And my question is, and forgive me if this has been covered already, what insurance there is that the next phase would be completed?
Absolutely. Thanks for the question. So our hope is to start construction and finish the project. In response to discussions and questions from staff, they asked if this were to be phased or not completed all at once, what would that look like? What would go first, second, et cetera, which is why we created that phasing plan that has been shown throughout. As far as concerns about the project starting and stalling out, which again, we absolutely do not want that, but we all live through 2020 and things happen that we don't expect. We would work with the city attorney as part of the redevelopment agreement to address what that interim condition would look like. Because again, we would have residents in there and would have a shared interest with the city to make sure that that's in an attractive interim condition in that absolutely worst case scenario from our perspective. But we could figure that out as part of the redevelopment agreement, and if the city attorney has anything to add there about what they typically require, that'd be great.
Chair, may I make a brief comment?
Yes, you may.
And so one of the things that the city can do, sort of like the nuclear option, if things don't progress specifically according to the provisions of the development agreement, as council was stating, is that the city retains the right to demolish any structures that have been completed if they're not completed according to the timeline and according to the plans as stated. Like I said, that's a very extreme option, and as Ms. Jenke-Dale also stated, should this proceed, we would work together to see what we could, how both parties could walk away, I guess, if not happy, then satisfied, but making sure that this project continues with no interruption.
I have a question. If that's a concern, as part of the agreement, would you be able to have a prerequisite be a performance bond be put up by the developer?
Yeah, we do have a performance bond on
That
there.
would cover completion of the phase 2 and phase 3?
Well, that would be the entirety of the project, right? If there's a performance bond that covers the value of the project, and, you know, we're required to hold something of that, I guess, size, that wouldn't very well leave very much for the applicant to complete their construction, right? And so where we have performance bonds and letters of credit is for public improvements, but we wouldn't require a performance bond for the entirety of the project.
That was just a concern. I know that Councilman had a concern about that. Is that something that could be put into the agreement, or?
Can I interject? May I, Madam Chair?
Yes, you may.
So, and complete indemnification is unrealistic. You can't hold the bond, you can't hold the entire amount for the development. That would mean it would need to be financed twice. Okay. So what we do is we have LOCs, letters of credit, right? Standby letter of credit. So for public improvements, we have an LLC for the entirety of the project plus 15% to make sure that the public improvements happen. And so if someone walked away, we can pull that LLC just with the stroke of a pen from the city manager and get that money for good cause shown. And then finish the project like any other public works project that we have. Because essentially that's what public improvements are. It's a form of public works project. It's just being done by the developer as opposed to a contractor the city hired independently. So that's taken care of in any and all cases, fully. In terms of the private side, what we do is we take an LLC for a lesser amount to make sure that we have monies available to what we'd call pull foundations, so that you don't have like the land of the lost out there where you have only this and you don't, you know, it didn't get finished and you got half-built buildings and things like that. We can basically remove those. And so that's all we would take for that. And that would be a portion, not a very small portion compared to the entirety of what would be needed for the entire development, which is just not realistic. So that's how we, you know, hedge against the, you know, unfortunate occurrence that might happen where there's a partially built set of buildings or building and the project fails for whatever reason. Another way we hedge too is, and what we talked about in terms of the phasing, is so we can have an understanding of how they're going to approach the project. I think I said this previously. We don't expect that the project necessarily when we talk about a continuous project, like the code talks about one contiguous phase, or one continuous phase, I should say, a continuous phase isn't necessarily a simultaneous thing, right? It doesn't mean everything is happening all at once. It means that it's proceeding in a continuous fashion. So it's going to start from one end of the development and proceed to the other end of the development based on some construction schedules, et cetera. So we'd look to see that the phasing is so we have an idea of when these kind of, the continuous phase would occur. Where we would definitely seek that in the beginning phase, if you will, of the project, that first phase include the what we would call the common area benefits or amenities, such as the pool house and such, so that folks don't have to wait till the end of the project to get those things, which can be very contentious and cause a lot of problems for residents that are new to a development. So we do have those types of things that we negotiate as part of the development agreement. Development agreements don't come before this body, but they do come before the city council, and they are advised, we're advised by corporation council throughout the process, but staff actively are involved in those negotiations, including public works and community development staff and others. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Can you collect, I mean, I don't know if it's done, can you collect permitting fees for the entire project, for the beginning of it? I mean, rather.
So what we do is we collect permit fees on the permits that are issued. And so depending on how many permits are issued, we'd collect fees. So we need to review plans. They have to be, you know, essentially full architectural, full everything before a permit would be issued. So if they're going to do it in phases, they'll probably get certain assemblies of buildings permitted in groups and then seek permits later for the other phases. So that's typically how it's done. Like, could it happen where they supply us with all of them ahead of time for permits? Yes, but I wouldn't expect that they'd be simultaneously constructing all of them unless they feel they have the capacity to do so. It's not that it's impossible, but it doesn't necessarily, we don't necessarily require that through our code. So it's really up to the applicant in terms of that aspect of it. But we're going to want to definitely see that the common area amenities are completed before we issue a final certificate of occupancy for that first phase, because we don't want to have a situation where people are waiting till the very end of a project to see those amenities.
And presumably the clubhouse holds the office for the development, so for people wanting to look at the apartments, they would need to have an office there.
Typically that's right. Or sometimes, you know, units themselves are used as a show unit offices too. So
Yeah,
that could happen as well.
The chair, the floor plan submitted show a concierge an office in the clubhouse.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Any more questions? Oh, yes, Commissioner Henry.
Carl, could you put up the map of the project again, just outline where the conservation easement that we've been talking about exactly goes on that property? Is it, for example, the entire R7?
Yes, it's at least the R7. Let me check if it's, yeah, I actually think it goes in, hold on, I'll pull that up. One moment, please. Sorry, let me get my bearings here with the mouse. So here, this is the proposed conservation easement, and it actually goes, it actually goes to the back of the townhome units. So it's actually the R7 area plus more.
Good. So that whole area along Ridge Road is also the conservation easement.
That's right.
Thanks, Carl.
Thank you.
And the proposed fence can be built on the conservation easement?
Either on it or right up to it. That fence is proposed, it may not be on it. Perhaps a question for the applicant. That fence goes essentially right along the western boundaries. Perhaps I can double check as well. Let me double check. Proposed fence is this right here. It may encroach. Of course, I'd have to double check. That may be an allowed encroachment though, because they are proposing certain things to go into the conservation easement, including a 5-foot wide path and the tot lot as well. So I guess based on this, I would speculate it does slightly encroach, but I would need the applicant to verify that. But even if it does encroach, it may be an allowed encroachment, because there are other things also encroaching.
So as part of the approvals for this development, if that were what occurred, the location of the fence is as specified. So, you know, that can be a fixed thing, and, you know, that would be part of the approval.
All right, any more questions from the commission? before we move on to public comment, we did receive some comments in the email, and I think Mr. Burhop was going to share them with us.
Yes, Chair, I will do that right now. This is going
So these questions were received and are under the cross-examine type of questioning, so they will be put to the applicant and/or the city as appropriate.
Okay, so, sorry, I was just setting that up. But yes, Chair, I will go ahead. They were in the public packet. There are 2 public appearance forms. I will read the short one first and then the long one second. So this first one is submitted by Kenneth Tatz. He asks, and I'll just read this verbatim. Question, if the traffic study is realistic, why does the city of HP need to create a driveway for police and emergency vehicles to enter Deerfield Road directly and bypass the congestion that will occur on Old Deerfield Road? That is the question stated by Kenneth Tatz. And then the city's response, one moment. So the access on the west side for the police department onto Deerfield Road is, one, it's emergency only police access, so it's not to be used at all for guests or visitors, nor even for regular police use, just for emergency only. And it's separate and apart from the project. It's just a desirable access point that the police department and the city wants for the project, so it's not precipitated by the project. Okay, and then I'll move on to so the other one is from Michael Tarnoff, and several of the questions will be directed to the applicant. One of them is to the city. I can do that one first. So there are 9 questions. I'm going to read the 8th one first because that's directed to the city. It says, and this is from, again, I don't know if I said it, forgive me. It's from Michael Tarnoff. So the question is, if the city of HP indicated that it would be beneficial for traffic on Old Deerfield Road to have a right-in and right-out only with respect to the driveway access from the police station in 2019, why does the city of HP not now insist upon a right-in and right-out only for this development? And so this question, so that's the question, and so this was reviewed by city planning and the engineering division. And so that development in 2019 was 500 units, more than double this. And so that's the response to this. The first response is that development was 500 units. This one is presently 232. It was 240 when it was initially submitted. And then the other response was also just based on the city's review as well as the city's third-party traffic reviewer, Civil Tech, indicating that given the proposal that right before the commission, it was not required or needed. And that's the city's response. And then I'll go ahead. There are 8 other questions. I'll read them. And just to be clear, I'm reading the question of this. Mr. Tarnoff had more context in his comments. Those are in the public packet for anyone to review. I'm just reading questions. So the first question is, and this is directed to the applicant. Okay, so I'm going to read this to you. Why should this development be allowed to exceed 178 units, or alternatively, why should the entire development not be zoned R7? And what benefits will the community receive in return for granting the developer this significant benefit, which is an increase of a 30% increase in the number of units allowed? That's the first question.
Sure. Thank you, Carl. So I believe the 178 unit reference is if the whole site were zoned R7 as opposed to the proposed the proposal that we put forth, which is the split zoning between the RM1 and then having that step, which is a multifamily residential unit, or residential district. I know it's confusing because it's a -1 versus a 7, but the R7 is actually a less dense residential zoning district that we are proposing as a buffer or a way to step down from the RM1 proposed for the primary development site with the R7. Again, I have it explained to me, a less dense district to transition to the single family that's adjacent. As far as the community or what the benefits are that come with this proposal, I think we've gone over them plenty of times, and staff has talked or just went through them again tonight. But if you want me to read those, I'm happy to do so. But those remain the same as far as access, parking. One clarification was we noticed that in the staff report and in the presentation, it just said public easement to the tot lot. That's also to the Woodland Trail. So that has not changed, even though, so just wanted to clarify that on the record as well.
Okay, the next question is, can the developer provide the community with any information supporting the argument that it needs to have 232 units in order to make a profit at this site?
So I think that, we've explained that this is a private development proposal. I think more importantly than us providing any numbers is this is what we are willing to invest and take the development risk, and we think that we can get both debt and equity partners to come along with us and finance. So, I know that there were some other numbers put in the question. We don't know how to validate those. We don't know where those came from. I can say it does appear to disregard all development costs and land acquisition, but again, I think the bottom line and what's most important is we think that the proposal that we've put forth has merit, is appropriate, fits within the surrounding context, and is from a land use and planning perspective is appropriate. But no, we don't have any additional information on the finances that we are in a position to share.
All right, the next question is, this is number 3. If a developer in Northbrook can make a profit with a density of 5 units per acre, why does Habitat feel it cannot make a profit on this site with a density of 6.35 units per acre, which is 27% more density than the Northbrook development? And can Habitat provide the community with any information supporting the argument that it cannot make a profit with 178 units at this site?
I think I answered the second question just now. This is a development that we believe in, that we're willing to invest in, and we think that we can go out to the market in a very challenging market and finance and get partners to come along with us. The Northbrook project, I know the staff report includes some information on it. We know nothing about the finances of that project or the details of their financial deal. We see it as a completely different project. It has completely different surrounding context, but I don't think that we can make a comparison to that project based on information that we have.
All right, question number 4. Can the traffic consultant explain both what its peak hour estimates are based on and why its report does not include these conservatively estimated 348 working individuals leaving and returning to the development during peak hours?
Good evening. Sorry about that. Good evening. Michael Worthman again, principal at the firm of Koenig, Lindgren, O'Hara, Buna, KLOA. Sorry about that. Can everyone hear me now? Can you hear me now?
That's better.
All right, sorry about that. Michael Worthman with KLOA. The trip generation was based on rates provided in the trip generation manual published by the Institute of Transportation Engineers. It's sort of the Bible for traffic engineers. It's a very thick document that has various land uses in there, and they have trip rates based on surveys of those uses that have been conducted over many, many years. This is what is accepted by all public agencies, IDOT, Lake County, Cook County. More importantly, your staff and your traffic consultant has reviewed it and approved it. But one more point is the fact that we look at the peak hour traffic, 1 hour, where most people are leaving to go to work over a 3.5 hour period in the morning, and they return over a 3.5 hour period in the afternoon. So not everyone's leaving at the same time. So that's why the peak hour volume doesn't represent the total people that are leaving a development in the morning or coming back in the afternoon.
All right, question number 5. Can the traffic consultant explain how this narrow section of road will handle two-way traffic when large 50-foot long semi-trailer trucks, delivery trucks, are parked in the roadway? And the question refers to that portion of Richfield Road between the intersection with Old Deerfield Road on the west and the intersection with the access road along the railroad tracks on the east.
As we've discussed in the past, the city of Highland Park is planning to improve that section of Richfield Avenue. They're going to reconstruct the whole thing and have two 11-foot lanes, one in each direction, which is more than sufficient to accommodate both passenger vehicles and truck traffic. There will be times where there is a truck parked in one of the lanes, and during those times, traffic will have to wait for each other. If two vehicles are coming at each other in opposite directions, one will wait while the other one passes. This is common in industrial areas, and it's common in residential areas. You see it all the time when you have parking on both sides of the road and only one car can pass. One car yields to the other car, and then that car travels through. So once again, this was reviewed by the city and your traffic consultant, and they did not raise any concerns with it.
Okay, thank you.
All right, the next question, we're on number 6. And
Mr. Burhup, can
yes.
you wait a second?
Oh, I'm sorry.
There's a lot of talking over here, which is making it hard for me to hear what's going on, and I know it's making it hard for the other citizens to hear what's going on. So everyone will get their turn to talk, should they need to. All right, sorry, go ahead.
Apologies, thank you. So this is question number 6. There were 9, and the city already responded to number 8. So this is number 6. Why not include the previously proposed deceleration lane and left turn lane in the traffic plan for the current development?
And I believe they are talking about Old Deerfield Road at the access drive. Correct me if I'm wrong.
So yes, it says a previous traffic consultant for one of the previously proposed developments at this site recommended both the deceleration lane into the development from Old Deerfield Road at the driveway across from the police station and a left turn lane on Old Deerfield Road at the intersection with Ridge Road.
As you probably know, that development was much more intense development than what is proposed. That was the industrial development that was going to have over 300,000 square feet of industrial space and over 575 parking spaces. So a much more intense, dense development than what we're proposing. As the traffic study has shown, separate turn lanes are not required at this access drive. The access drive is projected to operate at good levels of service as proposed. And once again, the traffic study has been reviewed by your third-party consultant and has agreed with the findings.
Okay, this is question number 7. Can the traffic consultant please state either yes or no as to whether this expected reopening of Sherwood Elementary School in September of 26 was included in the calculations presented to the PDC?
All done?
Well, there's an and. It depends if you say no or yes.
No, it wasn't.
Okay, if the answer is no, can the consultant please make new calculations, taking into account this new information, and let the PDC know whether that changes any of its conclusions or recommendations?
Well, it's our professional opinion that the traffic that will be generated by the school does not change any of the conclusions or recommendations or findings of the study for a number of reasons. One, the traffic study has included some additional growth, background growth, in the existing traffic volumes to account for future growth in the area. These projections were based on those provided by the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning. This is what we base our traffic studies on. Second, with the intersection improvements that we're proposing, all of the intersections in the study area are projected to operate at a very good level of service, and as such has more than sufficient reserve capacity to accommodate any additional traffic that may be generated in the area. Just for reference, I think we talked about this last time, Old Deerfield Road is really only operating at about 50% of its capacity. So there's capacity out there for future growth. Just a couple other facts. Not all of the traffic that's going to be generated by the school will be on Old Deerfield Road. There's a number of ways to get to and from that school. And second, with a school, it really only impacts the morning peak hour, because in the afternoon, the schools are usually out around 3:30, well before that afternoon peak period. So it's our opinion that the findings and recommendations, conclusions are still valid. And once again, your third-party consultant reviewed the study and did not have any concerns with it.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. I think I'm done.
Question number 8 was already read and responded to by the city. And then question number 9, which is the last one in this list, is why has the developer refused to schedule open meetings with its neighbors?
I think I answered that earlier. We are aware of no meeting requests that we've not accommodated. We held a very well-attended community meeting that we sent notice out for at the very beginning of this process. We've continued anytime someone has approached us to speak with, and we continue to be willing to do that. We know that there have been meetings that explicitly were put on where we were made aware of that were organized by residents and explicitly excluded the developer and the city, but we couldn't really force our way into those without an invitation. And then, of course, we've been here for many hours, and we believe responded to the comments that we've heard. But we continue to be open to dialogue throughout this process, construction, as well as ongoing operations of the building. I know it's been a while since we talked about Habitat's credentials as a developer, but I know it's come up in public testimony as well. That they're a very well-respected developer and operator, and have been for many, many decades. And you don't get that type of reputation by not doing all of those things and being good neighbors.
Chair, thank you. That concludes the public appearance forms that were submitted.
We have a quick question from Commissioner Fettner.
Yeah, just getting back at as far as Sherwood School reopening. It's been a while since I've had kids in the schools, but is it still going to be kids coming from like the Sherwood neighborhood? So coming across, or has that been redistricted? I don't know, but do you know where the kids are coming from to Sherwood?
City doesn't know the catchment area of that off the top of our head, no.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Okay. Mr. Burhoff, do we have any more comments from the public from the packet that need to be dealt with?
There are not any more
Okay.
public appearance forms, no.
Okay. All right, so now I would like to give the public the opportunity to speak. However, before we start, I would like to start with anyone who has not spoken here before, who's not been heard here before. So you may work your way up. You'll have 3 minutes. And as we move on, I would ask that testimony not be repetitive. So if you're new and have not spoken about this, please come up to the podium. then I will swear you in. All right, welcome. What's your name, please?
Terry Steinberg.
Okay, and do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, you have 3 minutes.
I just have a quick question. I live on Ridge Road, so I'm wondering about how long, and I know you can't estimate in case of, God forbids, but about how long are we talking as far as traffic till it's all built on Ridge Road? Because it does back up like 20 cars from Old Deerfield Road.
Okay, would the applicant like to answer that question, please? About how long of a process for building this will it be?
All right, thanks for letting us answer that one. So best case scenario, we hope to have complete the project in 18 to 22 months. But we anticipate construction traffic will all come off of that spur that's being opened up as part of the project and wouldn't impact or would have minimal impact on Ridge.
Right, so you would not be driving on Ridge?
Correct.
Just the other people coming off a Ridge trying to make right and left turns might have extra difficulty while the project is going on?
Correct, although we're hoping primarily for construction traffic to not come off of Ridge at all,
Okay.
to come off that spur.
Well, I'm just picturing when we're remaking the old Deerfield Road turn lanes in front of the police station, that's gonna affect traffic.
Absolutely, yeah. Those, by just their nature of being improvements to the public right of way, we'll have to do, but we'll do our best and work with staff to do it as quickly as possible for
Okay,
those
thank
public
you.
improvements.
All right, next. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, please state your name and spell your last name, please.
Megan Gulata, Gulotta.
Okay,
Okay.
you
I'd
have
like
3 minutes.
to start with my concerns.
Yeah, use the other one.
This is better?
Yes.
Okay, great. My concerns are the number of units proposed. I'm concerned with the impact of traffic on Ridge Road, Deerfield Road, Old Deerfield Road. I'm concerned about the impact on home values in the immediate area. I'm concerned about the strain this will put on Sherwood School. A question I have is, in the city and or the developer considering in tandem similar projects within the immediate area, such as the Zion apartments that have recently been approved, Northbrook Court, whatever's going on there with residential apartment developments. I understand the memory care facility next to the Jewel is now becoming an apartment facility for special needs adults. So it seems like within a short period of time, we're going to have potentially a lot of apartment and rental units within a small residential area. Questions I have and thoughts and concerns are, what are the benefits in the area for existing residents? What is being done? In the presentation I saw tonight, it seemed like it's a few crosswalks, some sharrows, and 12 parking spots. So is there anything else being done beyond that? And then other questions would be the average square foot of each unit. How many townhomes are there versus apartments? I think a lot of the materials I've seen refer to townhomes, but tonight I've overwhelmingly heard apartments, which is a very different thing. So I'll stop now, and if anyone is able to address any of those questions, I'd greatly appreciate it.
Okay, so to this board's point, the amount of public benefit needs to be commensurate with the amount of relief that the applicant is asking for. Right now, the only relief they are really asking for is for the heights of the townhomes. And I do believe they are all townhomes, but I will let the applicant answer that. So, you know, our job on the board is to deliberate whether the amount of access for the neighboring people into the tot lot or into the walking along the path along Ridge, and the extra improved signals that are going up at some of the surrounding stop intersections, if that's good enough, if that equals the amount of relief that they would like to have the higher buildings in the development. So that is what we deliberate on. So far, we've been in agreement that what they're offering is equal to what they're asking for, which is why we asked for findings of fact at the last meeting to come through. We've also, you asked a question about the impact to the neighboring schools, and several meetings ago, the school board reported back that they are not concerned about the number of potential students coming through. They don't think it's going to truly affect the school district. So that question was answered previously.
Is the construction currently going on at Sherwood able to accommodate excess capacity?
I presume so. I'm not on the school board. So, you know, they've answered that question, and that's how they answered. They're expecting X number of extra students, and they have different models that I have access to. So, oh, sorry, Planner Burhap will answer that better.
Just as a reminder, this development was sent for review to the 3 school districts and the Park District, and no objections were noted by any of those 4 entities.
Thank you. Okay. And as far as the other projects in the area, I'm pretty sure that the one at Ridgefield Road and Deerfield Road for the adults who are disabled is not going to affect car traffic much. I think somebody said there's only going to be like 1 resident who owns a car and can manage with a car. So I don't think that's going to be an issue, and I don't know what's happening at Northbrook Court, and I personally would think that's so far away, it's not really going to affect us, this development up here. Director Fontaine.
Just wanted to make clear, this isn't an apartment building. These are townhome units or townhouse units. They're single-family attached units. That is what you're talking about here. So whether or not they're rented is there was a question about that, but it's not an apartment building. I just want to be clear that there's no apartment buildings being proposed here. They're townhouse units, townhome units, and the applicant may or may not rent them or sell them.
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you for clarifying.
Do we know the proposed square footage of the average unit?
I defer to the applicant. I believe it was.
Yeah, and those materials are posted in the packet as well. The applicant provided a matrix, and that's included in the packet. That's posted online.
Chair, if I may.
Yes.
I would urge that we stick with our usual custom of the public commenter asking all of the public comments, and then the applicant or city staff answering once all those questions have been asked, just in the interest of having everyone who wishes to make public comment or ask questions be able to do so tonight, so that there's no extended back and forth.
Okay, thank you. All right, do you have any more questions? Okay, next. Okay, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
What's your name, please?
Lindsay Lurie.
Okay, and can you please speak into the microphone and spell your last name?
Lurie. I have a few questions about, I know we spoke about the traffic study earlier, but it seemed like some people aren't really in the neighborhood. It's a third party that does the traffic study, and if you've ever been at the corner of Ridge and Old Deerfield between 8:30 and 8:50, you've seen 30 cars backed up because there's buses and everyone who is leaving Sherwood, which isn't happening right now because all those students are at Place until the end of this school year. They're not redistricting any students, so it will be the same kids coming from Sherwood Forest or kind of the Red Oak area. And then the same thing happens again for all residents that live in the area. At the end of the day, between 3:15 and 3:30, you've got all the buses leaving and all the cars leaving, and there's this huge backup. So I urge the traffic study to be redone and to take this into consideration. My other question, I'm sorry, I wasn't here at the beginning, but I did read most of the packet. There's a walkway at the tot lot at Devonshire, is that correct?
Yes.
So what will that look like with regard, so for example, when all these cars get backed up at the stop sign at Ridge and all the way down Ridge, and then also there's a walkway, is there gonna be like a light at the walkway on Ridge that people are gonna have to stop at right when they come around that curve? Like how are people gonna even cross there also? I just have concerns about having a walkway right there. My parents live right there at that corner. And then another consideration, West Ridge is being redone right now, and they're gonna have a whole new gymnastics facility, which is gonna bring in more traffic. And so has that been taken into consideration? So you have Sherwood coming back, and you have West Ridge expanding also. So those, I urge you to reconsider the traffic study, because if you have that many townhomes in a facility, are you saying that everyone works from home also and doesn't leave between those hours of 8 and 9? Like that, it just doesn't logically make sense to me, so. That's it.
All right, thank you.
Just my question about like the walkway at Devonshire, what is that going to look like?
Okay, so we can have the applicant speak again to that, because I know we discussed it at a previous meeting. Would you, oh, huh?
That would be great.
Chair, of course, your presiding officer, what my recommendation would be is that someone keep a running list of the questions.
Okay.
During the applicant's case in chief, the applicant can address the questions all at once.
All right, that's fine.
Will there be like minutes to, like written down to share like those answers to some of those questions?
Well, we'll have the applicant, when we finish getting all the public comment, we'll have the applicant answer the questions, and then they will go into the minutes.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll just add that the these meetings are recorded and are viewable on the city's website.
Thank you.
Okay, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, and my name is Ellen Mayer, M-A-Y-E-R. I live in the Sherwood Forest area, and I have a question for the developer. Do you have any of these developments anywhere else in this area?
Okay, I'll write that down, and then they'll answer that.
Okay. The reason I ask is because I've been in several areas and seen a couple of these developments that look exactly like the ones they're showing us. One that I saw was on Route 60 in Vernon Hills, and I believe that's Vernon Hills. And then I just saw one on Dundee Road in Wheeling. And honestly, they look like the same buildings. And my question is, and I don't know if anybody can answer this since I don't know if it's the same builder or not, I wonder what the occupancy is on these, if they're going fast, if people are very interested in them. I can tell you there's a lot of them. I never counted them, but I can tell you they are very big areas. And my concern is if they build all these, who's going to live there? You know, I mean, I guess there's people who are looking for these kind of places, but believe me, there's a lot of them around. It's just a question of where you want to live and if it has the amenities you want, which is my next question. Who will be paying and taking care of these? You know, they're going to have a pool and a center, and they have lots of nice flowers and trees and bushes and so on. Is there going to be some kind of a homeowners association where the people who are either buying or renting pay into, or who's going to be responsible for taking care of all of this? I don't know if they can answer that, but that's my question.
I've written that down. In our experience, that has been, there's an organization that will care for the facility and the amenities. So.
Okay, I was just curious if that was going to be something that would be added to what they have to pay in order to live there. That's something that could be a possibility. Anyway, I'm just curious about those things, especially about who is building all those. They look exactly like what they're showing. So I'm very curious to know that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next. All right, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, name and spell your-
Robert Cooper, Cooper. I haven't commented up here before, however, I have written letters and
Okay.
emails. I guess my first question is, I'm kind of shocked that the applicant doesn't know what their rent rolls are going to be coming into a project like this. I dealt with hundreds of developers. I said I'm kind of shocked that the developer doesn't know what their rent rolls are going to be, if they're going to charge rent or if they're going to sell it, because any project that I've ever come across, the people are down to the nickel as far as trying to get equity partners to come in and invest in the area, because you're not going to go into the area not knowing what your cash flows are. So I really have a hard time believing that, and they're not giving up that information, which I wonder why. The second thing is that with the new population, you're going to have a strain on the economic tax area. In other words, if you have 230 new units and each have one child comes in, that's 230 kids. You're going to have 23 kids to each a new teacher. That's 10 new teachers at about $100,000 cost. That's $1 million. So that's an additional tax burden on the people who are in the area. I don't know how much money, how much tax revenue the new project's going to bring in. It doesn't sound like they know, because they don't know what their rent rolls are going to be. So I have a big concern, about what that is going to do, and I don't think I should be paying for something that they have a shortfall on. I mean, everybody comes in and says, here's our rent roll, here's our cost, here's what real estate tax are going to be. And we all just got hit with our real estate tax bills, so I'm sure that it's not on the bottom of your list. So that would be a question to the commission. I would go ahead and propose that if they go ahead and build this, that there's an additional surplus tax added to that area to cover an additional cost, because now you got new teachers, you got new schools, you got new police officers that come in, you have new fire department, it has to be developed. And you know what? $1 million is nothing. So to the commission, I think it's something you have to look into, because it's going to tear apart the resources for the area. That's all I have to say.
All right, thank you. Okay, please kindly avoid cheering, whistling, clapping, booing, anything. We're just trying to get through the meeting here. Okay, yes. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, and your name, please?
Susan Ben, B-E-H-N.
Oh, hi, Mrs. Ben.
My thought as I'm sitting here, it's the first meeting I've come to, is that there's a lot of talk about the traffic during rush hour, or, school, end of work, beginning of work. But if you live where I do on Barberry Road, it's a through street from Clayview Road to Ridge. And anytime traffic is backed up on 41, that is where people get off. Traditionally, most of them go down Ridge, but with this new development and Ridge being more backed up and more people living here, my concern would be the amount of people cutting through on Ridge Road, which is a family-oriented street. There's kids playing all around. There are people parked all over the street, right? It's an older neighborhood. People don't have huge garages, and so there's a lot of street parking, so it is a lot of that in and out. So my concern mostly would be like, is there anything taken into account about, I don't know, can you make those like when it's like, local traffic only or something like that? Because that's gonna be a really dangerous thing, and maybe also a negative thing to young families who wanna live on that street. And it's traditionally been either starter homes or people like me live there all their life, so that's my question.
All right, thank you. We will address them all here at the end. No, the first time, so I don't need to swear them in.
Oh, you don't have to swear me in, yeah. I've been sworn in before.
Are all the first, has everybody who hasn't spoken
Yes,
at one of
I
these
have.
meetings before spoken?
But anyone who has not spoken ever before. Okay, please come on up.
Hello.
Okay, hi. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Name and spell your last name, please.
Julie Yurov, Y-U-R-O-V. I understand that much has been covered in previous forums, so please excuse the possible repetition, and I ask for your grace and maybe some humor. So my position is twofold, as I have a property backing up directly to the proposed development. So with that, could the city please comment on other options that have been or are considered for the space, and maybe even what it would take for the city to take over that land and turn it into something to give back to the community or a natural area for the residents. Secondly, as a professional, full-time working adult and a parent to multiple children who attended Sherwood and I commute to work at different hours of the day, and at the same time try to accommodate children's schedule and their activities, I'd like to point out that Red Oak Lane is a one-way street near Sherwood during pickup and drop-off hours. When picking up children, the backup is an hour to pick them up, and it backs up Ridge and Red Oak. So additional residents would mean additional traffic, an additional inconvenience for us living in the area trying to get to our jobs where we earn money and pay our taxes. So additionally, I'd like to express concern with the traffic in terms of safety for our children. As a working adult, sometimes I'm not able to pick them up because we're not in the eligible bus zone. So additional traffic poses safety concerns for walking children as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next.
Hi, my name is Jeff, and the last name is Zun, and I
Do
swear
you
to
swear
tell the truth.
the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you please spell your last name?
Z-U-N. Okay, I live on Ridge Road. When there's the rush hour, you've got both lanes, both north and south, packed, okay? What if, God forbid, I have a heart attack, or my next door neighbor, who's an elderly woman, has the same problem? How are they gonna get an ambulance in there? Okay, this is crazy, okay? You've got too many projects in one area here, and, you know, I hope somebody doesn't pay for it with their life.
Thank you.
Lisa Cole Morgan.
Okay, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Well, I'm hoping that the city's Plan and Design Commission truly represents the citizens of Highland Park and reconsiders the density of this project. We can hear people's concerns about traffic in terms of, and impact on the schools and the first responder resources. I'm also concerned about, even though the applicant is asking for this dual zoning, why we would allow dual zoning, because technically the R7, which is in the, you don't have a map up, where the trees are, allows housing. And so it's a little deceiving to note that there's trees in this area, but once the applicant takes over, this probably could also be made into housing, I assume. Is that correct?
We'll answer that, but most of that R7 zoning is also the conservation easement, in which case they can't just build houses there.
But why would it be zoned R7 as a housing?
I will have the city answer that when we're all done.
Thank you.
Good evening.
My name is Jean Sachs Nygaard. Sorry about that.
Okay. Were you sworn in before?
Oh, no.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Do you want me to spell that last name or write
Yes,
it for you
please.
later?
Please do.
S-A-C like cat, H like hat, S hyphen N-Y-G-A-R-D.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm just going to start with the fact I came to every meeting but one, where I couldn't. We have lived here over 2 years now, very close to 2 years. Came from the city, came from a lovely townhouse condo association. One of the reasons we came here was to not have the same density and the same noise from the area that we had there. So in the 2 years we've been here, I will say housing sounds better than the original project mentioned, but I only see green space on 2 areas unless I'm not understanding the map. So whether you call it RR7 or conservative, I see those houses that'll be right across from it on the south. I also live on Barberry, and unless there's some really great finds and some change, there are times when even neighbors can't get through there. And to believe that there's a truck is not going to take a side street, I think is impractical unless you have police officers or private guards at every entrance. And again, there's only 3 entrances from Clavey up, Rosemary's the one cross street, and then up almost to here. So my third most serious concern is also I'm not that young anymore. I worked with, for 40 years with students, young ones up to 16. There's no group that doesn't forget there's cars in the street when they're playing. And that's something to truly consider. I think we think that children are little people, and that's fine, but when they're excited and playing or walking together on the way back and forth from school, I've personally seen an unfortunate incident, not in this, but in Chicago, and it was a very nice neighborhood with nice public school. So the density, the traffic, and the ability for the police to get 5 blocks away when it's hard to even walk through. My last concern is I hear and have been reading about increasing bicycle lanes. Everywhere I've seen a bicycle lane in Highland Park so far, they're lucky not to get hit. I don't see 11 feet as being great for trucks. Are we saying there's no bicycles allowed anymore in this area? Or they should ride on sidewalks now? So those are my general questions, and I thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Hi, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay.
Eugene Novikov, it's spelled N-O-V-I-K-O-V. So I'm a new resident to Highland Park. We actually just closed on the property on Grove Avenue, so we back up directly to this development. And what attracted me and my family to Highland Park was, in large part, everything the community and the city offer. And here's the, as I understand, I apologize. As I understand it, the developer, the applicant is only asking for a height change, or is it the density change? Because it sounds like the big question here is density. And if it is, obviously density, the traffic has been spoken sufficiently enough, but what has been brought up, density puts a strain on every aspect of city services and city life. It's not just traffic. It's teachers, it's park districts, it's police officers, it's all of the infrastructure. So as I understand it, the city gets just between 6 and 7% of property taxes. That's what goes into the city fund. Is that sufficient to cover, for that density for everything that the city provides? Again, schools, park districts. And I understand that it was mentioned that the school districts reviewed it and the park district reviewed it. However, as I understand it, it's all based on the applicant's application packet, which, not to say it's not true, but it's obviously, the applicant is there to make money. That's their only and sole goal, like any business entity. As far as, the studies the applicant has conducted as opposed to the city, feasibility, traffic, like to give an analogy. In the pharmaceutical industry, if there's a trial that doesn't go the pharmaceutical company ways, it doesn't get released. It doesn't get submitted, to the FDA. Same thing here. We're only seeing what obviously shows that this development is going to come out in the right way for the developer. But I think it's on the city, the committee to, conduct its own feasibility and, all kinds of studies. But especially, it's not just about the traffic, it's about every aspect of, as we all know, we're all affected by all of those things. And I think, again, there's a difference between rental communities, single-family residential communities, and cities that are mostly, one way or the other. And obviously, Highland Park is more of a single-family, for the most part, community. And to say that 200 odd something, townhomes is not going to have any effect on a school district, that's just, it just defies any belief. Obviously, as it was mentioned before, 200 something kids is going to put a huge strain, and it's going to require additional thing. As far as traffic, I know it's been beat to death, but I am a police officer. I work for the state police, and I've responded to many an emergency. The biggest issue in a situation like this is when there's an accident, people have nowhere to go, and the emergency services simply cannot get to the emergency. Okay? Like, the police can have all the sirens, all the lights. If there's nowhere for the traffic to move, the emergency service cannot go there. So if what I'm hearing here is being described as it's completely backed up, it's just simply not visible, unless they fly. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi,
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
certainly.
Okay, name, please, and spell your last name.
Sure, my name is Pamela Ruschau, R-U-S-C-H-A-U. I live in Sherwood Forest area, and I echo many people's concerns here, and so beyond the traffic issues, beyond the strain on the schools, et cetera, this is going to lower our property values. People who live in this vicinity, this is going to affect our property values. I don't see you lowering our taxes. And I would like to know if any of you sitting on the board live within a half a mile of this proposed development. Do any of you live within a mile of this proposed development?
I would say I'm in a mile or two.
Well, do any of you live on this side of 41? I think it's a fair question. And I would like to know, would you allow a project like this, at this volume of buildings, at this density, and the number of, the additional traffic, all of this stuff, would you allow this within a half a mile of your home? I venture to say not, and I believe you should take care of the rest of the people in Highland Park the way you would take care of your own neighbors in your own home.
Next, please. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Leona Stein, S-T-E-I-N. I've been in Highland Park since 1975. First on Barberry, and we've been on Strathairn since 1990. Strathairn, for those who are not familiar, is a tiny little side street that is the only in and out access is off of Ridge Road, south of Old Deerfield, north of Rosemary. I travel on Ridge Road multiple times a day. And as the other people have said, there's always a wait at the stop sign, whether you're going north or coming back down Ridge Road south. I don't want to reiterate all the other projects, but no one here has mentioned the fact that they're closing Red Oak School in 2026. We have no idea what's going to be there, if it's sold, as they did with Lincoln School, which I understand now they're building 8 homes for owner occupancy on the Lincoln School site. We don't know about Red Oak School. No one has mentioned the redevelopment of the Toys R Us area, which is right there. I don't know if there's anything in the works on that, but obviously something's going to come up at some time. And the other thing that no one said, I've been to other meetings here before, and someone said that part of this development is going to Deerfield schools, not Highland Park. I'd like to know how much of the development would go to Deerfield schools. Does that mean that the tax revenue would go to the Deerfield, I believe it's 109 district rather than the Highland Park 112? I'm sure the high school would still stay at 113. And would the tax revenue go to the city of Deerfield, the city of Highland Park? None of that has been explained. So I'd like some answers to that. And I know it's been addressed before, but I understand the developer is looking for optimal market conditions, but I really think they must have a plan. And rentals, to me, are transient. There's no investment in your community. I happen to own some condo units in the city that we rent in large buildings. So trust me, they're transient. People stay 2 years, 1 year, 3 years, and then they're off. There's no investment in the community at large, and that really will affect our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now I can.
Now you can speak.
Stephanie Kirch. I've been sworn in before.
Okay,
I swear to
thank
tell
you.
the truth. I don't live right off Ridge, but I use that constantly because I live off Clavey Road. So everyone's talked about traffic, and I won't repeat that. But people have been very polite about the applicants. I'm going to call it dodgy as heck, avoidance about being upfront, honest, and ethical about what the cost will actually be. There's no bank in the world that's going to help you finance. You're not going to have a single supplier, a single construction guy step foot without you knowing your costs. And you know absolutely what you need to charge to make your money back. And who are you kidding? It's an insult to the community here and us wanting something good for our community for you to act like, well, we don't really know. Baloney. I feel like when I'm listening to all this, I'm starting to feel like you want to build these things. Well, maybe they'll be rent. Yeah, maybe we're going to let some institutional buyer come in and take a whole row and squeeze it up so it's triple the price that it would have been. That's not home ownership. That's not helpful for the community. That's like living in a college town. We got to pay 4 times the amount to get a so-so apartment for your kid because there's no other choice. If we're going to expand, this is one of the most important, largest parcels left in Highland Park. It's certainly the biggest commercial. They have not given the public benefit, and forgive me, I was late because I had another meeting, but if it's already been said, but there's no public benefit near what they're, I mean, health and safety, I didn't even think about that. That's a huge one. But to me, it's just an insult that they're so dodgy and so evasive, and all these meetings, people have asked and asked and asked. You know your costs, you can't pretend you don't know what you think they're gonna be and what you think you're gonna charge. And because you're doing it that way, it's an insult. And I don't think we should welcome a developer that doesn't want to be part of the community, contribute to the community, give real public benefit, and meanwhile strain all these resources and put huge amounts of burdens on the community, especially the health and safety. That's really important. And I mean, when we're on Clavey Road on a big concert, if I can't go that way, I can't go back up to my house near Green Bay if I don't plan. So, but I do know that an ambulance could go around the wrong way if they had to, because it's never blocked necessarily both directions at once like that. So even with that kind of traffic, there's a way around it. This sounds very dangerous to me. And, but I still can't get past the ethics. So I urge the city and I urge the commission to please reject this out of hand because of the insult to the community. Thank you.
Next, please. Yes.
Danny Spanger, I have been sworn in before.
Okay, can you please spell your last name again, though?
Spanjer. I live on Grove Avenue, so this will be in my front yard. Sorry, I live on Ridge and Grove, so this will be on my front yard. I've asked some of these questions before. I missed a couple meetings, so I apologize if it's been covered. I know at one point, I believe they were asking for a slight variance in parking. Everybody will have driveways, everybody will have garages. However, what happens when it snows? Because they said the overflow would be on the street. If there's any overflow needed, it will be on the street. So where are those cars gonna go? My second, and I asked this before, Grove Avenue floods. People that live on the north side of Grove Avenue, especially towards railroad tracks, it floods terribly. They ripped up the street 5 years ago to fix the flooding, and now my front lawn started to flood. So what are they doing to make sure that that doesn't happen and it gets exacerbated? 3, when they ripped up Grove Avenue, several of us got inundated with mice because they ripped up the street and the mice had nowhere to go. You're now wanting to rip up 20-something acres? What's going to happen to those that live right there? And I saw you cringe when I mentioned that, and it did happen. You're mentioning construction traffic will all be on that one small area. What about the workers? Not talking the trucks to bring in supplies, I'm talking all the people working. What are the hours and the days of construction? Again, it's my front yard. Am I going to be woken up at 7 o'clock every Saturday morning? Somebody was nice enough to ask the same question. Any of you live in this area? And any of you like to live in this area? So I am repeating that question. And then also, on any given weekend in the summer, huge groups of bikers come down. For some reason, they skip the trail and ride down Ridge Road. We already mentioned traffic. Somebody mentioned the new rec center going up. That's not a small building. And now you're having all these bikers with the extra traffic, which is, not a good thing to happen. Somebody's going to get hurt.
Thank you.
Good evening, David Kenneth, Kenneth.
Okay, have you been sworn in before?
I have not.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you. You've got 3 minutes.
The word of the evening is transparency. With the developers, with Habitat, with everybody, they need to be transparent. I'm going to urge that the traffic consultants and any other consultants that have been used, both by the Habitat and the developers and the city, be redone. Because what they're not focusing on, the total number of units, the total population, it's like a tourist town. In the summer, it swells 2-3 times. If you have, the number of units times 3 or 4 people in each one of those units, let's call it 750 to 1,000 people that are living there. Apartment or townhome rentals versus permanent, the transient people, they come and go. But more importantly, the guests on weekends. Even if you have 2 people in a unit and they have a dinner party and they have 4 or 5, the hours of the traffic, it's not just going to be peak hours at 8 o'clock in the morning and 5 o'clock at night. It's going to be weekends. It's going to be everything. Oh, by the way, the kids, are they grade schoolers? That now the schools are going to go from 200 to 3, the grade schools are going to go from 200 to 300? But e-bikes, bicycles, cars, scooters, skateboards, all these kids are now going to be at peril depending on the walkways. So it's not just the 2 cars per home. It's the parking. It's the side parking. It's the guest parking. It's the constant movement all hours of the day, not just the 2 peak hours that the traffic consultants say that they evaluate. So with that, I'm not going to repeat anything else, but it is about the profit. I deal with investors and hedge funds and banks for the last 40 years of my life. They know what their profits expectations are. The accountants, because I am one, that do budgets. They do budgets before they even put their plan to the planning commission that says, hey, this is what I'm expecting. Then they go to their investors. So they know the mix, or they might know the definitive mix. They have a damn good idea what that mix is and what their profit potential is. But it's about the transparency for the city and the support that the city will need to provide on an ongoing effort throughout the development project, but more importantly, after everyone is, the project is built and you now have the new residents of Highland Park. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Hi, my name is Rick Balnick. I was sworn in already.
Okay.
I live on Devonshire Court, which is very close to the project. I'm also speaking as a clinical psychologist. I'd like to highlight one factor. Didn't know that was going to get the laugh. I'm using up my seconds. I'm concerned about the traffic and the density for one particular reason especially. The Auberge in Highland Park, the facility that is at the corner of Richfield and Old Devonshire, has been sold to CCHI Commons. It was mentioned earlier. That is a facility that will have 50 units for adults who are intellectually impaired and physically disabled. They will be living at that intersection. Construction is supposed to begin in October of this year and finished in April of next year. As a clinical psychologist, I strongly welcome these people to our community, but I'm concerned about the increased traffic at the very intersection where they will be living.
Thank you.
I'm not sure.
All right, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, please state your name and spell your last name.
Alice Francis, Francis.
Thank you, go ahead.
Already traffic has been discussed and construction has been discussed. I know all about both because I own a rental property, multicolored shingled house on Clavey Road. But that's not my question. It's already rented, so sorry. Oh, sorry. I am concerned about the letter of credit. I know we're kind of early in that, but a letter of credit is a bank's guarantee, a written guarantee, to pay out on behalf of the project, provided that the project meets specific terms and conditions outlined in the document. My concern is, in the interest of full disclosure, will we get to see a copy of that letter of credit just to make sure that all the conditions and specific details are met? Or would the council be able to see the specific terms and conditions of the letter of credit? Thanks.
Thank you. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you. Name, please, spell your last name.
Kimberly Laughlin, Loughlin. I have lived and worked here my entire life. I have some similar questions, but to drill down on some of the questions that have been asked before. My concern greatly is to the impact of the schools. I was the person who brought up that a big portion of this development is on the District 109 property. Can the applicant confirm if that was one of the 3 school districts that was contacted? And how many units reside within the boundaries of District 109 versus District 112? District 109 is already facing an upcoming referendum. We have buildings that are falling apart. We have classrooms that are overcrowded. On a side note, it will be interesting knowing that how this sits on 2 different district boundaries, how that will be a selling point. There are concerns as well of rental units and potential transient population, making for a far less of a predictor for school enrollment each year. I'll also note that school buses already have difficult turns there, my son's included. Will this impact who the districts need to offer to bus, especially during construction, as districts have to offer school buses to those who are crossing busy intersections or in dangerous conditions? So will that put an extra burden onto the schools to make sure they offer busing to students who would normally be considered walkers? And yes, when Sherwood is in session, this will impact traffic. It was asked where Sherwood boundaries are. There's a huge population of Sherwood School that comes from my side, which is the Sherwood Forest side, which means right now my Ridge Road goes by Mooney Park, so that means all the kids on this section they actually don't have to access that intersection, so to get to Edgewood, I should say. So if they were going to Sherwood, they would have to go through that intersection. So I do request that the traffic study be done a little bit more appropriately and timely, knowing that Sherwood is under construction. I also have concerns with the wording on the last bullet of the traffic impact review. What wetland considerations are needed? Covenant encroachment, more impervious what? What tree considerations? It seemed very vague in wording. In my humble opinion, I requested the city not allow these zoning variances. Lived through years of solo cup traffic, backed up for at least a half a mile. We avoided that area at least twice a day. People would then take my Ridge Road as an adjacent cutoff instead. My last question is if the applicant would proceed with the project if the 178 units is all that would be allowed. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Hello. I've spoken before.
Please state your
Yeah, I'm
name
gonna
again
hand
and
It's
spell your last
Katie
name.
Casas, C-A-S-A-S.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
So my take is a little bit more about the land. I oversee around 100 conservation easements in Lake County. So I would be very interested to hear what those covenants are going to be in that conservation easement that does not currently exist. At least it's not been reported, so it doesn't currently exist now. That can really determine what is and is not allowed on that land. I'd also love to know what that green space holds. Anybody who lives around here knows what flooding can be like. The more green space we have, the better that's mitigated. That does hopefully not just include species like buckthorn, but hopefully native species, which I would be happy to provide an extensive list if you'd like. That would really benefit not just water mitigation, which everybody has an interest in, but altruistically our literal green space, which Highland Park likes to hang their hat on being a green community. I am interested that those heritage trees continue to remain safe, as well as any other keystone trees in the area. I think that should be important to everyone. You mentioned, it was mentioned before about the influx of mice during construction. There are a lot of other animals that live there too. I'm not sure where else they're planning to go. I don't know what other rental units are available for them. So I just would like to keep in mind that as we are planning for who's moving in, what needs to be relocated, and that includes the flora and fauna.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
My name is Kenneth Tatz.
Okay. Have you spoken here before?
I have,
Okay, so you're sworn in.
yes. A while back, I spoke at this very lectern with a giant white bird in hand showing the streets around the old Solo Cup property. I spoke about the concerns of the people in the southwest corridor relating to the traffic congestion at the developer's preferred point of ingress and egress across from the police station on Old Deerfield Road. At that time, one of the concerns that I noted was that the significant increase in traffic would result in decreased or increased response times for police and emergency vehicles. That issue directly affected residents on the other side of the congestion choke point leading to East Highland Park, but didn't affect those of us in the southwest corridor, most of whom are here today. Apparently someone was listening, because without acknowledging the problem publicly, the developer recently proposed cutting a large hole in the beautiful stone wall in the police station parking lot and creating a driveway for police and emergency vehicles to bypass that choke point on Old Deerfield Road. Obviously, they acknowledged that there was going to be congestion there. The traffic is already a problem when both Sherwood and Red Oak schools are in session. Old Deerfield Road is our only pathway to Deerfield Road, hence our passion about this issue. At the last meeting, I asked that turns be limited to right in and right out. I understand that the developer doesn't want any limitations on the freedom of those to whom they wish to market the townhomes. The problem is that left turns into and out of the development have to cross over 2 lanes of traffic, and that will cause backups. So we've solved the problem, the issues for 1% of the problem, which are police vehicles that travel to downtown Highland Park, and done nothing for the other 99% of the vehicles belonging to the residents of the Southwest Corridor who use Ridge and Old Deerfield roads as a conduit to downtown Highland Park. I urge this commission and the City Council to represent all of the citizens of Highland Park, including those in the Southwest Corridor. At the very least, I do not think it's asking very much to please limit those left turns in and out of the development to non-rush hour times. Hold off on adding the driveway from the police station directly onto Deerfield Road until we see whether the rush hour limitations are sufficient to alleviate the congestion issues. At this point, it appears that the commission is willing to grant a 30% increase in density over what R7 zoning for townhomes would normally allow. Why are we making this exception when every addition to density aggravates an acknowledged traffic problem for which no solution has been proposed for the benefit of a large number of existing residents of Highland Park? In conclusion, I urge the commission to condition approval of the plan as drafted to disallowing left turns in and out of the development at least during rush hour times. Do this for us. Show us that those of us residing in the Southwest Corridor are being heard and considered on this issue that will affect the quality of our lives. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, next, please.
Well, I just rewrote my speech, so who knows? My name is Lisa Radin. I've lived in Highland Park for 36 years.
Have you been sworn in before?
Yes, I have.
Okay, thank you.
And I live on Heather Lane. A lot of what I was going to discuss has already been discussed, so I'm not going to do that.
Thank you.
I had written probably a 7-page dissertation to Carl about issues that I did not think were covered. And so you could get it in a packet, or I could give you a top-line coverage right now, which I think I'm going to do. First of all, the traffic study that was done in 2022, it was only noted that there were 4 pedestrians observed. This proposal includes 3 or 4 new crosswalks. It includes the disability development, kids, adults living in a new building. We have a walking trail, and we have kids going to Sherwood School. That is a lot more than 4 kids. So I think that all invites having the traffic study looked over again. In addition, on the project in particular, I noted that the Mechanica building is near Ridge and close to homes on the other side of the street. And I'd like to know if that's loud, if it's lit 24/7, and maybe that's not a good place to put the main mechanical building. So, Heather is a group of streets. It's Heather, Devonshire, and Winthrop, and residents living on those streets do not want traffic to cut through like someone had mentioned before. And whatever you do for them, we want. We don't want all this traffic cutting through our streets to bypass. Now, I noticed that there are going to be new turn lanes. I also noted in a previous study that the lane width was going to be decreased. And I'd like to know if the lane width will be decreased with more lanes and more trucks and more traffic, and I think that needs to be looked at again. In addition, and I'm reluctant to bring this up, but Solo Cup is and was a plastics company. Their famous Big Red Cup and other products are made with number 6 plastics, otherwise known as polystyrene, that does not degrade and is viewed as the EPA as a human carcinogen. So, has the solo land been checked for polystyrene? Does digging up the solo land stir up embedded microplastics that could spread through the air? How will Habitat manage that? How will these microplastics affect our water system? And recycling institutions do not accept number 6 plastics or microplastics made of number 6. And so how will Habitat dump the contaminated soil, if it exists, or will Highland Park be responsible for that?
Okay, thank you. Unfortunately, your time has run out, and we've
Okay.
got a number of other people to get through, and
Thank
then
you.
we want to get the questions answered by the applicant and the city.
What am I talking to here?
Yes, speak to that one, and then, have you been sworn in before?
Yeah, I've been here before.
Okay, please state your name and your last
My
name.
name is Sandy Lurie, L-U-R-I-E. I live on Devonshire, so this is a big one for me, okay?
Okay, you have 3 minutes.
We live on Devonshire, directly across from this property. I'm a designer, so I know what it is to work within somebody else's parameters and appreciate the difficulties of doing so. And we urge the commission at this time to vote against this development in its current form. Specifically, and I'm sorry I'm going to repeat some things, this plan is massively too dense and large. They are building on 19 acres, which comes out to 12 units an acre, which is way past what is supposed to be allowed. Why should you grant a variation on that? How does that benefit this neighborhood? It doesn't. It is way, way too tall. Again, why would you grant a variation of 6 feet over what is allowed and have them tower over the neighborhood? They, Habitat, designed these buildings as urban row houses and not suburban townhouses, whatever they call them. Anyway, they were able to wedge more units in by making these tall and not in what could be designed to meet that parameter. Why couldn't they stay within the 35 feet? The way they designed them resulted in that. And what about designing units meant for more mature populations who want to stay in Highland Park with a bedroom on the main floor? There's tons of need for that. Is that a target audience that they looked at? Additionally, why would you vote yes for a development without knowing exactly what type it is? For sale or for rent? People who buy are invested in their neighborhood. People who come in and out of neighborhoods are necessarily not. How could this very reputable firm, and they are very reputable, not have this information? In closing, I read all the letters in this packet who were in support of this, and guess what? Interestingly, not one of them lived on the west side of town. Even this very commission, with the exception of, I think, one, lives on the east side of town and is not affected. You will not be affected on a day-to-day basis, but it will affect us and everybody who lives here. And I'm not going to talk about traffic at the moment. We welcome a residential development on this property, but this one in its current form, one of the last large parcels of land in Highland Park, should be treated with the special care that it needs. We have been at this process, I believe, formally only since April, not counting the introductory meeting of last October. Surely something this important is worth more due diligence. Please tell this very nice developer to go back to the drawing board and work with the community for a plan that makes sense to be incorporated into this space. And Ms. Janky-Dill, I would absolutely love to meet with you. And I will arrange a meeting of everybody in the area if you want to hear what we have to say. I have one more comment that actually my daughter brought up on the crosswalk at Devonshire, which is, I am the second house off of Devonshire. I can't think of a worse place for a crosswalk. Cars come around that street going north and south, and they whip around. And for people, and you have a tot lot right at that end near Devonshire, to be walking across to get to Devonshire Park at the end of my street is ridiculous. It's just not a good, and I hadn't even really thought it through because I thought, oh, that's interesting, a crosswalk. There should not be a stop sign there. There should not be a light there. It should be as it is now, but it's not a good place for people to cross. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
My name is Michael Tarnoff, and I have been sworn in and spoken here before.
Okay.
The public comments section of the packet distributed for this meeting included 2 letters, one from Community Partners for Affordable Housing and one from the League of Women Voters of Highland Park Highwood, which mentioned that the inclusion of affordable housing is the reason for their support of this project. As it so happens, I'm a member of the League of Women Voters of Highland Park Highwood, and during my 36 years as Executive Vice President at the JUF, I have been personally involved in the development of numerous subsidized and affordable housing units. I am a strong, lifelong advocate for affordable housing. However, as you've heard over and over here tonight, the inclusion of affordable units is not the issue. For those of us who need to drive on Deerfield and Old Deerfield Road and Ridge Road every day, the issue is density. This project is described in the public notice agenda as, quote unquote, a townhome development. R7 zoning allows for townhome developments, and it would allow 178 units. Habitat is building townhomes. So the question is, why shouldn't this project be zoned R7? That question was question number 1 in the questions that were read out loud earlier today. And the answer, in my opinion, was based on a legal technicality and was woefully inadequate. It was, in fact, a non-answer. While we're at it, despite earlier testimony this evening, I am unaware of any open to the public meetings with the residential neighbors since last year. The response that we had no formal requests for meetings is again based on a legal technicality and is woefully inadequate. To my mind, unless and until I hear a rational explanation as to why Habitat should be permitted to exceed the density allowed by the R7 zoning, which accommodates townhouses, the split zoning request should be denied by this plan, should be recommended for denial by this plan commission and denied by the city council. Furthermore, I'd be willing to bet that approximately 90% or more of the people here in this room tonight agree with that conclusion. Perhaps by a show of hands, without applauding, you might let the commission know how many people agree with that conclusion. Okay, thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Eileen Tarnoff, and I have been sworn in before.
Okay, you have 3 minutes.
I just have a statement to make that as a clinical therapist, my profession allows me, and I carefully emphasize observing and listening to people. I think tonight is the first night that people here are being listened to. I think it's important that we listen to everybody here. People are not saying, don't have this development. They're saying, be concerned about my safety. Be concerned about my community. Be concerned that I can live and enjoy the way I've been living up until now. We're not saying, don't have this development. We're not saying that we don't support affordable housing. What we're saying is we all have to live here together, and up until now, no one has listened to what everybody has said about what those of us that have been living in this community, and I've lived here for 53 years on Barberry Road. We need to be listened to. Everybody here needs to be listened to, and people have not been listening, whether it's been the developer or the Planning Commission as well. Please listen to what people are saying. We all want to work together, but we can't do it if people don't listen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Evening, Jim Lederer. I have been sworn in.
Yes.
Just have a couple of comments. As the owner of Bluegrass, been here for 21 years, looking forward to something coming in next door. We can accept progress, but I can assure you that the 4 property owners that back up to this property are pretty much in consensus in that we're not being listened to. This is a generational moment. There's 28 acres that are going to be developed in Highland Park. You guys are being tasked with the project to bring it together correctly. Just down the street from us, the Toys R Us project is right down the pike, right behind it. So you have to create the proper channels for the logistics. There's going to be more cars coming in, and that property has been rezoned and is primed for redevelopment. So make sure that as you're creating access points, perhaps the spur should be their entrance. And the spur would match up with where Toys R Us comes in as well. And it would take a little bit of pressure off of the police department and in front of our project. As the current owners installed the Jersey Berries a couple years ago, they have just installed chaos. They have not been working with us, not been listening to us. We've asked them to take them down. They're still there. They have not really respected the businesses. There had to be some litigation involved just to get Joe's parking lot to be recognized. So to say we're on board with them, we're not even close. The first project came across, they were 15 feet from the property line, shows you where their intent is. Let's jam it up against them. Let's not even worry about it. They're now 35 feet. We're improved. But 35 feet, a 40-foot building, that's high. And keep that in context. And the funny comment made as I did sit down at one point was, we were talking about the rentals, and their comment was, yeah, it's on the west side of Highland Park. Nobody cares about the west side. My comment back to him was, know who you're talking to, know your clientele. I live on the west side too. And that was a comment made. Once again, we do care. I'd like to see something move forward, but at the same time, we have to do this the right way. Thank you.
Thank you.
You don't need my name again, huh?
Actually, we usually wait for everybody to go before we take seconds.
Oh, my apologies, I didn't realize.
Hi, my name's Dan Wagner. I live in Sherwood Forest, and yes, I've been sworn in.
Yes, I thought I remembered. Okay.
All right, just a couple of quick points that I'd like to make having to do with this. One, density. I think the 178 thing, I think the 178 is a good idea. Zone the whole thing R7 and just go with that route. Putting a tot lot out, after hearing everybody, I live in Sherwood Forest, so I'm not familiar quite as much as how much flooding issues you have, but putting a tot lot immediately adjacent to the water, where the water retention is going to be in this thing, sounds like a dangerous idea. I don't know whether you could put fencing up or something like that to keep the kids from wandering off into the pool after we have heavy rain. I think that might be a dangerous thing. I'm sorry. I was just referring to the tot lot being adjacent to the wetland area and how dangerous that could be for little kids that are playing around in there. That's all. I just want to say, I like what it looks like. I just think it's way too dense. All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, perhaps one, we've got somebody new coming up.
I haven't spoken.
Okay.
Hillel Singer,
And have you been sworn in?
Singer.
Okay. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay.
Basically, just a couple of comments. Should this project, which I in general support, go forward, again, I think the density is way too high. I'm strongly in favor of zoning the whole thing R7 and doing the 178 units. But that said, right now we're at 232 and we're at 178. So that's about 53 difference, if I'm doing the math. Maybe somewhere down the line, if we're going forward, there'd be some room for compromise. Maybe it doesn't have to be 232, doesn't have to be 178, maybe it can be halfway. I mean, just an idea. The second comment I want to make is regard to the traffic that's going to be servicing the development. Garbage, snow removal, whatever it takes, service that's coming into that development. There is a road that runs along the railroad tracks, and I would strongly support that any kind of service traffic, instead of coming in by the police station, would come in through that road that runs along the railroad tracks into the development.
Thank you. Okay, one last quick comment, please, or one or two.
I will be short.
Okay.
I understand that you are probably inclined to approve this development in one form or another. What I urge you to do is to take into consideration, obviously, all the concerns that the people have expressed here, traffic's a problem, et cetera. One of the ways you can do that is to stick to the rules, require the proper amount of space between the buildings, maintain the height requirements, and by all means, reduce the density, because that's going to help address some of the other problems as well. The present density is crazy. Please take care of the people on the west side of 41 as you would take care of the people in your neighborhood and as you would apply the rules for them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, would you have her repeat her name for the record, please?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Could you come repeat your name for the record?
My name?
Yes, please repeat it.
Pamela Ruschaw, R-U-S-C-H-A-U.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a long list of questions. So, real quick, I'd like to start, maybe staff could go over the density discussion, because I think people are only looking at the area where the townhouses are as opposed to the whole area, when they're talking about it being too dense or not too dense. And if there's any variances that have been asked for with density.
So I can make one comment on that,
Okay.
Chair. So the only thing I want to say about that is there's a rezoning request, and that rezoning request is for part of the property to be RM1. That's where the townhome unit development is going to occur, and then part of the property is proposed to be rezoned to R7. And so there's no variation per se. That's a request to rezone. It's a downzoning. The property is currently zoned I, light industry. And the only other thing I was going to add, and I don't know if we're quite yet to the commission deliberation. It sounds like we want to run through some questions here. But when the commission does get to deliberation, I recommend that be discussed first. Because the commission needs to find first in favor of the rezoning before it can move to the planned development. And again, the rezoning gets to density, because that's the request is for the rezoning.
Right, but regardless of what density there is, R7 versus RM1, right now there's no variance requested because this project meets those requirements, correct?
The rezoning proposed as proposed does not exceed the density for the district sub. That's correct.
Yes, that's what I want to make sure is understood. In addition, there was a concern that the buildings are too close to each other, but we've, in previous iterations of the project, there was a variation because some of the buildings were too close to each other, but that has now gone away because the project has been rethought. Is this correct? I guess I'll ask that of the applicant.
Yes, that's correct. We're no longer asking for the building separation relief. We've moved things around to accommodate it and
Right,
comply.
so that's all following our rules that we've set forth in our city.
Correct.
Okay, stay up there, please, because we'll probably have a bunch of other questions. All right. we had a question with respect to who will be managing the amenities.
Yes, so again, part of this goes to if it's rental versus owner occupied. The likely scenario would be that it would be managed by a professional management company if it's rental. If it were to have a condo component, there would be an owners association put into place. That is both required by the Highland Park Code, and I would allow for the city's attorney to confirm this, but it typically is also in the redevelopment or in the development agreement that there be some sort of common maintenance addressed.
Okay, thank you.
And that's correct. That is
Right.
a condition that we require in the development agreement, the condominium or HOA establishment.
That would not be maintained or managed by the city of Highland Park.
Right. Okay.
Including the roads, by the way.
Okay, yes. Let's see. All right, so there was a lot of talk about, understandably, about traffic and a desire to have perhaps the traffic study redone, looking at the changes to West Ridge, which I will add, we're not putting a new building at West Ridge, we're replacing a building. So there was traffic there before due to the building at West Ridge, and there will continue to be traffic when the new building is in place. So I want to make sure we're not impugning the West Ridge Park District building with leaving it for extra traffic when there's already a building there. Okay. Questions do we need to answer? And I do think that the traffic study should also take into account, you know, the concern for traffic backed up both ways on Ridge and how emergency services will handle a situation like that. Do we know if our police department and fire department have looked at that?
Chair, would you like me to respond?
Sure.
Yeah, so again, this, the review was sent out to the emergency services. It was sent both to the fire department multiple times as well as to the police department, and no objections were noted to the development.
Okay, even in the case of traffic backed up?
I mean, again, they reviewed the submission materials and they did not indicate
Okay.
objection.
All right. I know somebody asked about the potential for development at Toys R Us. That is not before us. We don't know what is happening at Toys R Us, so we can only go with what the third party, what the traffic study and the third party analyst tells us about the potential for traffic in the area.
Chair?
Yes.
There were some, if I could address some of the questions that were, I would say, not before the board, not before the board's consideration in terms of the relief requested. There was a question about other options for the space and whether the city can take over the property in order to create perhaps a natural space. I just want to remind the commission, and I'm sure the commission does not need reminding, that their consideration is about the appropriateness of the application presented, not other options or whether there is something better that can be constructed. Another related question was, what if the developer builds according to the R7 zoning district? Again, similarly, what's before the commission is the site plan, the application as presented, and not as it might be if tweaked in one way or another. There was a question about whether a letter of credit could be viewed by the public, and whether or not documentation is available for the public is subject to the Freedom of Information Act. And so all documents that the city holds is deemed to be free for copying or inspection, subject to any exceptions that may apply pursuant to FOIA.
Mr. Martinez, is that something that would be going to City Council? Because in my brief time here on the Plan and Design Commission, I've never seen a letter of credit come through for any of the projects we've done. I assume that's done at like a higher level?
Correct, and it's not a part of the consideration before this commission.
Right. Thank you.
There was a question about the split of students in the school districts. I believe that was covered. The school districts did present at various times responses to the how it will be split and whether or not they object. There was a question about the restrictive covenant, what it will consist of. And
Yes.
so that is a matter that right now, for certain, it will prevent any building of structures in the restricted space. Added to that, what would be approved, if this is approved, is a specific development plan and a specific special use permit ordinance. Any deviation from that would require separate consideration. They would have to come back before this board if, for instance, they wish to build anything in what beyond what has been presented. There's a question about the mechanical building. Is it loud? Is it lit? I think if the applicant knows, they can address that.
Which question about the
That
mechanical
is-
building?
Sure, the mechanical building. There was one question about whether it would be loud, whether it would be lit up.
Yeah, I think there is some confusion about what that building is. It's just a maintenance building, so it's where we would be storing, the necessary equipment to maintain the privately owned but publicly accessible space in the easement, as well as other landscaping throughout the project. So, things like that. It's not a mechanical building.
Okay. And then, well, we see it up here. What was again the plan for the Devonshire Court crosswalks there? Is that meant to be a signalized crosswalk of some kind or just a crosswalk?
Sure. And I think we talked about this at the June meeting, looking
Yes.
back at my notes, that when this came up, that this as well as other crosswalks were provided as kind of part of the extensive staff and park district feedback. We're happy to work with staff in the engineering department to figure out the best way to make sure that, ensure that is safe, whether, I think what we talked about back in June, were things like just certain ways that we could design it to highlight it so that cars coming from the south would see it. But again, if any of the crosswalks are objectionable, we're happy to work with staff and review them again. We just included them because we were asked to do so.
Okay, I mean, I think it has been brought up before that that's a very difficult section of roadway, and we've discussed it at the last meeting as well, and maybe there's a way to do some kind of extra signage further down Ridge before you get to the curve with a light on it. They have a similar thing up in Lake Forest where there's a crosswalk at Lake Forest College where the students hit the button well ahead of time and it flashes extra lights to let people know that there's a crosswalk coming up. So I would think that we should consider that again.
Chair
Yes.
Moore, I just wanted to add in, because you were addressing the Westridge construction, that several people asked about the Sherwood repopulation of Sherwood and what that would do to traffic.
Yes. Yes, and I would like the assurance from our third-party traffic analyst that those things have all been taken into consideration. The new Park District building, I don't think that's going to change traffic much. The repopulation of Sherwood, this is the first I've heard of Red Oak closing, so that's all new to me. So I would just want to make sure that we're looking at all those items.
Chair, can I comment on?
Yes, you may.
On the Park District
Yes.
property at Westridge? So what I'll say about that is there was already a facility there, and that facility either has been or will be demolished. And then so they're proposing the new facility, and the commission may recall that the new facility is actually smaller than the existing. I don't remember off the top of my head how much smaller, but it's not matching the size of the original one. And that development did not require a traffic study because it didn't trigger any of the thresholds for a planned development. So that's just
Okay.
what I wanted to say about the Park District project on Westridge.
Thanks for reminding us of that. Okay. And then there was a lot of talk about the R7 versus RM1, and maybe we could re-explain why we're doing that, why we're having split zoning.
I can go through it again, or do you, is staff interested in? So, and I think that there's maybe confusion about where we are today. So the current zoning for the site is I industrial. When we brought, or when a previous plan was brought forth in 2023, proposing a compliant plan with the existing I industrial zoning, it was not well received. So the current owner, who is not the current applicant, took that feedback, worked with their consultants to identify the current applicant to do a plan that we thought was would be more supported by the community and the city as a whole. In working with staff and also the site constraints, it's a very difficult site given heritage trees, certain environmental areas, to kind of design where buildings could go. We came up with the strategy of doing the RM1, which is the multi-unit zoning district, in the areas that are adjacent to other industrial uses, but setback, and that setback has been increased from the adjacent industrial uses. And then stepping down that zoning to the R7, less dense, more single-family zoning as we get closer to the single-family homes to the west and south. So that is what we're proposing there. I think the city attorney already addressed this, but notwithstanding the R7 zoning, which we think is appropriate as a step down, there are many places in the approved documents where we would be restricted in those areas. But as a planning principle, it seemed appropriate to have that step down in the underlying zoning. But through the conservation easement, the plan being approved that we would have to comply with, we're protected, or the city and neighbors are protected. If the split zoning was not of interest, we would be fine with the whole site being RM1, but we thought that having that buffer with the lower density underlying zoning made sense as kind of an additional show of good faith, and that we are going to build what we are proposing to build and nothing more.
Okay, thank you. There was another comment that came regarding how will traffic and noise and whatnot be managed during construction. So we don't handle that here at Plan and Design Commission. That's handled through the rules of the city, which state that construction can only happen at certain times of day. And
That's correct, Madam Chair, and through the development agreement, we require a traffic management plan that essentially it requires the city's approval of Public Works, and my office work on that aspect of things.
right, so
Part
that
of
would
the development agreement that they have to.
right, so that would manage like where the workers are parking.
Correct, it manages where the workers were parking, but also which entrances they would use, things like that. That's how that's handled.
Okay. And would that handle, I think that there was another discussion about trying to make sure we drive the garbage trucks, snow removal, et cetera, through the access road only, and that they would not be coming up Ridge or down.
During construction, that's when that construction management plan would handle all types
I
of
meant for
works.
afterwards, is there?
Afterwards,
is there-
that would be something that you would have to consider as whether or not you want that as a condition or not.
Okay.
For the development.
Okay. And would that be handled at this point or at final?
It could be handled at this point. I would say if that's an important condition, then you should handle it at this point, because this is the preliminary zoning consideration. As we had mentioned before, the final consideration is just that of final engineering. If there are no changes precipitated by the final engineering that warrant a re-public hearing and new additional relief for any of the substantial change factors, then it would not be reheard, and it essentially would be a check to make sure that it's the same as it was when it was originally proposed through the preliminary.
Okay, this is for Ms. Jenke Dahl. There was a concern for like the plastics potentially left behind in the soil. Maybe for someone who hasn't been here before, you could run us through how the EPA approves the site and how you guys handle the cleanup.
Sure. So, and I think the comment I heard was, it started with construction of how does that get removed and how is the public protected. We would be using dust mitigation and other removal methods that are required by OSHA and complete compliance with those requirements, and we would be responsible for any disposal of contaminated materials we find on site that would, of course, not fall to the city. Once we get through approvals and as we're gearing up for construction, we will be working with the IEPA, with our environmental consultant, to round out a plan for any necessary remediation. It will depend on that plan usually is an iterative process between our environmental consultants and the IEPA, where they map out exactly what needs to be done in specificity for the site, and then the IEPA does confirm that that is completed. I believe staff has included a condition to that effect as part of the recommended conditions to the findings of fact that are in the packet as well.
Okay. And then there was a comment or a question whether Habitat is doing any other developments in the nearby area. And I know you've shown us previously the developments you've done downtown. Perhaps this person wasn't at that meeting, but are you doing anything nearby?
No, none of those developments that were mentioned are, Habitat's not involved in any of those. We were encouraged by some of the letters though in the packet, including from SEPA, mentioning the wait list for affordable units and their excitement for 35 additional ones, as well as additional letters from people excited about the additional supply and housing, which is such a critical issue right now in Highland Park and elsewhere.
All right. And I think we can, my opinion is that the buildings all look like that because that's what the buildings look like now. And 15 years ago, they all looked a different way. It's a little bit, it's the style. Okay. Time to go home. Somebody's sending us a message. Okay, somebody leaned on the switch. Okay.
Thank you, Vic.
All right, do we feel we covered everything that was asked in the questions?
Chair.
Yes.
Chair, remember there was one question about if there was enough parking on site and
Oh, yes.
and snow movement on site. The parking requirement is something in the low 500s, and they're proposing 690 spaces solely for use by the development. So by zoning standards, they are more than compliant for parking spaces.
Yes, and I do think most of those are on the people's property. So you've got your 2 spaces in your garage plus your spaces on your own driveway, is my understanding. So.
Correct.
They're overparked, I think is the name we use. All right, so there was a question,
Madam Chair.
somebody asked, like, did we answer it?
Yes, I think the question spoke to the fiscal impact study that was completed on school districts and. So I think the question had to do with what was the fiscal impact study that we addressed in either the first or second meeting for the tax base going to the schools and whatnot.
So I think what the commissioners, sorry, do you want me to try?
Go ahead.
Sorry. I believe what the commissioners trying to refer back to is back at the May meeting, we had a fiscal impact study that we presented. That consultant then attended a meeting, answered questions. Our study was also reviewed by both school districts as well as other staff reviewers. And that study looked at the existing taxes that are generated by the property, which are quite nominal, the additional taxes under both a for sale and rental scenario, and then the impact it would have not only on schools, but on the other taxing districts, and in all scenarios resulted in a net positive outcome, even taking into account the perceived additional burden on those districts using industry standards. And that, again, was reviewed and vetted by staff and third-party consultants.
And
Those documents were posted as part of the meeting packets at the time.
yes, and Councilperson Ross, does that assume that's something that the city council will look at when they choose to approve or not approve a project?
We're going to look at everything.
Okay.
It will be provided to the city council as an exhibit, as it was to you as a commission.
What the code requires, but it's really how the parking is used. That is not going to get you the outcome you think, because you're saying, well, that doesn't account for one homeowner having 8 people that day. That other 4 people.
Can you please come up and speak at the podium so we can get all of your comment in? And I'll need you to give us your name.
I have been sworn in. My
Okay.
name is Helen Singer.
Okay, speak in the other microphone, that works
sure.
better for some reason.
Okay. The count technically that they're parking exceeds the requirement for the units. And of course, people have a lot of appropriate concerns about the units. But you're going to throttle Ridge Road when a homeowner or renter, because I'm actually not, I don't feel that way about a renter versus a homeowner. I think Highland Park could use both properties, very much so. And I think that's a misconception people have of maybe the first rental they had, 50 years ago above a store. But the parking is that you're counting for, it doesn't have enough public parking on your site. And that's because it's too dense. But if you could get rid of a few of those pods and turn them into little places that could park 5 cars, 5 cars, and 5 cars, and 5, I'll go more, it would stop that parking on Ridge Road, which could, because you're allowed to park on Ridge Road, and it's going to be throttled because there are people who park already along Ridge Road who live on Ridge Road and aren't next to an ancillary street. They are parked there, and I don't know about overnight parking there, but if you could use the slight reduction in density to create more public parking, because your count is only the count it is because you have so many units, and you're counting 4 at each house. But if I'm the 5th person, I don't get to park at Mrs. Smith's house. I park on Ridge Road.
Okay, I think there's plenty of room on the streets in the unit for parking. I don't think anyone's going to park on Ridge and
You
walk.
can park on streets, in your public streets, in your own streets in the PUD there?
Yeah, I think if you're going to visit somebody there, there's gonna be room on the streets to park. There are little parking spots, and there's 12 parking spots on the north end of the development along the access road too.
Okay. So your 600 count allows for how many, or roughly any idea how many additional people can park?
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a
I
quite,
think that's a concern. You don't think they'll come on to Ridge Road?
Chair, I can respond.
yes, why don't you respond? Because I honestly don't think you're gonna have a day where everybody there has 8 people visiting.
No, I didn't either think so.
So Mr. Burhub will respond.
So so there's 232 units proposed, and every unit has a garage with 2 spaces. So that's 464 spaces. In addition to that, the applicant proposes 110 driveway, garage apron spaces. And then for the parking throughout the development, there are 116 throughout the development. I mean, you can zoom in on this. This is posted online. Throughout the development, there are what the developer calls 116 internal surface parking. Basically, that means 116 parking spaces on the private street there. And so that totals up to 690 total spaces.
Then I didn't realize that you could park, usually you cannot park on those interior
There will be some
roads.
There will be some places where you cannot park, but the 116 spaces are available for guests of the development, et cetera.
And they're specifically called out on the plan. I mean,
that's
they're
right.
shown, it's
Okay.
not just assumed.
All
They're
right,
actually striped.
I'm happy to hear that, thank you.
They're actually striped.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
All right, thank you. Okay, so we need to decide, the commission needs to decide if they want to approve the findings of fact, if they're ready to decide on that, or if there's more information needed.
Chair, as you enter into deliberations, one thing I wanted to say, there were some concerns raised with the city's public comment, public notice procedures. I have no concern. If you'd like me to address it, I'm happy to. But I have no concern with the validity and the completeness of the city's public notice procedures here.
Okay,
Would you like me to?
if you would like to make a statement, that might be the best thing to do.
Very briefly, the code doesn't require separate public notices for the rezoning or the PUD request. That is not a requirement from the code. The PDC directed staff to draft findings of fact. For the PUD, there was a concern that there was no direction for the rezoning, be that as it, regardless, that's not a requirement. In many communities, there is no direction for staff. That is a custom that we have here. And in any event, I believe that from the minutes, the wording was that staff be directed to draft findings of fact, generally. There is no requirement for separate case numbers for the rezoning request and the PUD request. Finally, the PDC must consider the rezoning prior to the PUD. If you were to adopt the findings of fact, the way the findings of fact are ordered, the rezoning is first and the other relief comes after. It would be, if you adopt it, as if you read it verbatim in that order.
Okay, thank you. So the first thing we would be addressing would be the rezoning, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Can I?
Yes, please.
Just a personal point before we get into whatever we're going to do here. All 7 of us up here are Highland Park residents, and we're all volunteers, and we do listen to everybody who comes here. I mean, I understand why the north side and the Chicago and the south side of Chicago are at odds. I don't understand why the east side of Highland Park and the west side of Highland Park are at odds. I listen to all of it. I am here to make Highland Park a better place. And I think every one of my fellow commissioners is also here because of that. And for anybody to think that we're slighting one area of the city or another, I mean, I'm just going to tell you, you're flat out wrong. We do care very deeply. I know this is an important project. It's an emotional project, but we're all in this together. Please.
And I do think our job here is to make projects better. So yes, I know we've been to a lot of long meetings for this, but the intent is to distill it down and make the project the best it can be. It will not, no project will make everybody 100% happy. It's just not the way it is, but we're trying to do our best. And when we've looked at some of the projects in the past, I do think we've come up with a much better solution.
Madam Chair? I'm just giving her permission so I can ask if I can speak. Is that all right? Thank you.
I'm sorry, we finished our public comment for now. The meeting has to end in 5 minutes.
Madam Chair, it's important that you understand how a letter of credit works. A letter of credit is not a line of credit. It is a letter with specific demands by the lender or it will restrict funds. If it restricts funds, the project will fail. That's all I wanted to point out. Thank you.
All right, thank you. That's,
Excuse me.
that's less our issue at Plan and Design Commission and more a city council issue when they approve, when they decide to approve or not approve. Okay, so. Oh, you've got it there. Can't get mine to work. All right, so Carl, can you put up the findings of fact for us, please? My computer is not cooperating.
Yep, sure.
Okay. Okay, so the first aspect is, yes.
Madam Chair, if I just may make a suggestion. If we have to end this meeting in 3 minutes, I am not comfortable debating these findings of fact in that amount of time. I mean, I have at least 3 minutes worth of thoughts that I would like to share. I would respectfully request we continue this meeting.
Okay, what do the rest of us say?
I respectfully disagree with that point. I feel like we've been through how many meetings now? We've gone through this, and we've asked staff to draft findings of fact. Yeah, I think if we have to stay a little bit later to deliberate and actually talk through the issues, I think we should do that rather than continuing it to another meeting a month from now and belaboring the point.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Just point of clarification from the board's rules.
Yeah, our section 10 of our rules of procedure is that if during the course of a meeting it becomes apparent the commission cannot conclude an agenda item before 10 p.m., other items will be continued or postponed. This meeting can continue beyond 10 p.m. at the discretion of the chair. So that's our rules regarding whether or not we continue this meeting past 10 or not.
Okay. Do we think we can manage for another 30 minutes, another 15 minutes? If we were to postpone, is there a date certain that we could choose? I mean, I don't think I want to push this out for another month either.
Well, if the commission has a quorum, so I would need to know from you if you have a quorum, it would be in 2 weeks on Tuesday, September 9th.
Okay. All right, well, I guess I kind of think we should press on, unless people absolutely have to leave or something. So the first item in the findings of fact is the rezoning to RM1 and R7. I know you'll want to speak on this.
Well, I'll just get all of it out right at once, okay?
That's fine.
This is the most significant undeveloped property we have in Highland Park. It cannot remain undeveloped forever. I think we all recognize that. But what should it be? Whatever it is, we cannot afford to get it wrong. We're not going to get a second chance at this probably in any of our lifetimes. Let's remember that this property is not zoned residential. This property is zoned industrial, the light industrial district. That is the top of the line zoning that we have. And we give it that for a reason, because we expect the highest kind of return we could possibly get from that land. It is not a foregone conclusion that should it be downzoned all the way to residential. We're taking any commercial possibility away. We're taking away a mixed use potential, a campus type setting for something else. There's so many other possibilities, and I think it's the burden here is on the petitioner to prove the case that this amount of downzoning is to the best interests of Highland Park. There's no testimony that's been presented that I've seen other than that there's an assumption that people don't want anything else here but residential, but there hasn't been really any testimony about this. And I think that troubles me. I think it troubles a lot of the commenters about what this site could be. I think in the back of a lot of people's minds, they know that what we're being presented is not satisfactory. For a proposal to merit consideration for this big of downzoning, in my opinion, it would need to be outstanding in every respect. It would be something that we have not questioned the way we have questioned this development. The proposal before us really falls short of that outstanding category. I'll cite 5 major reasons, and I'll thank in advance former Chairman Haynes further for his comments in the packet. Those of you who've been around Commission, he and I didn't always see 100%. I mean, I think I agree with him on this issue more than any I ever had. This project is still too dense. It has too little open space within the developed portion of the property. I'm not sure what the right number of units is. I know it's not 232. And actually, the proof in this is look with your eyes at that development. Where the green is around the outside, oh, that's great. But the people live inside. They live with all that concrete. And that's assuming already that you believe a clubhouse building and a pool are somehow open space. This is an enclave that our design code specifically discourages. The project is not harmonious with any of the surrounding land uses, and it has no relationship to any street that exists there. In fact, every one of those buildings turns its back on any street. That's, you know, that is not what good design is about. The re-subdivision request still mystifies me. I hear the logic, but I can only come up with one reason why there should be RM1 and R7. And that is somebody someday may want to build R7 single-family homes on that outside portion. Otherwise, why isn't it RM1? And if that ironclad guarantee is so ironclad, you don't need the buffering zoning. And this business with the little strip of industrial zoning at the top, I get why that was done, but that is nothing more than an attempt to subvert the intent of our code, which says there should be a minimum, and I'll point out minimum, 50 feet between residential and industrial uses. This little strip of land makes it possible for there to be only 35 feet. And I don't see how any member of this commission could vote in favor of something that we know has the power to subvert those intents. Although the amount of relief has been reduced, I still believe the public benefit remains inadequate. Every one of us on this commission talked about bicycles and pedestrians and others say all kinds of other things. And yet the addition that we get, more parking spaces for cars. I don't understand that at all. Finally, this design is monotonous, uninspiring, devoid of that meaningful open space outside of the periphery. And it fails to make use of any of the creativity in design and planning that we've come to expect in Highland Park and that our PUD code was specifically designed for. And for all those reasons, I'm not going to support this motion. I think we've put enough time into this. I think the petitioner has not moved anywhere near enough. This is a project. I appreciate all the comments from everybody. I appreciate the work that's been done, but I don't think this project is worthy of Highland Park. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you for your well thought out comments. Okay, so we have one now. Thinking about the bike issue, the traffic issue, and the pedestrian issue, I would like to see a sidewalk along Ridge. I know we said, well, we'll just do the pathway along there, but I don't see how anyone with a scooter is gonna manage that, or an electric bike. So personally, I would like to see a sidewalk along Ridge. All right. Does anybody else have a comment from the commission?
I've got some comments.
Please go ahead. Let's get them all out right now.
You know, when I said on day one, when this came before us, this is a very important parcel, right? I mean, maybe one of the more important developments we're gonna have in the city here. And I've been going back and forth on the density. And again, I don't know what the right number is. But I don't think that I've seen a clear and concise proof that what we have today is not gonna be a burden on the community and on the neighborhood. You know, I'm very concerned that the new Sherwood School is not part of the traffic plan. And I don't think just sitting up there and saying, oh, it's gonna be fine is good enough for me right now. I really wanna go back and they need to do the calculations, not just at school, but, you know, Westridge, I know there's been talk about that it's, well, there was an old Westridge there and this one's smaller, but old Westridge was barely used. This one's gonna be nicer and newer, and there's gonna be meets there, and there's gonna be events there. And I think it's gonna drive more traffic than the old Westridge was gonna drive, or had. So again, I'm pro-development. I wanna see this to be developed, but I'm just not there yet. And I think that there needs to be more proof from the applicant that this development's not gonna be a burden on the community. And I think, you know, there's still a number of outstanding issues there that concern me.
Okay. We're not going to be able to finish if we clap after everybody's comments. So, Commissioner Henry, did you have a comment?
I find myself in agreement with my colleagues to my right and to my left. This is a significant property, as Commissioner Kirsch has said. And I bring a different context to it to a certain extent. I've served on the school board, I've served on the library board. I'm from the north side of town, and we used to think that we were the underprivileged part of Highland. And I'm from the south side of Chicago, and I think we were the underprivileged part of town. But they can do better. The density, as we've talked about, as Commissioner Nanis brought up a couple meetings ago, and has been brought up, bothers me. And to the extent that Carl said we need to deal with the zoning part of this first, that's the issue. That's really the issue here. I mean, traffic is an issue in that part of town already. We can't do anything about that. Take that up with Councilperson Ross and her colleagues. But we don't have to make it worse. And I'm just not seeing anything that addresses that. At the very first meeting we had on this, I asked about the cost of whether it's condos or rental property, never got an answer. That's months ago, never got an answer on that. We asked the question about the potential environmental issues of the property, which is not an OSHA issue, by the way. I can tell you that because I represented OSHA for 6.5 years. It's not an OSHA issue, really. It's an IEPA issue. And although there was talk early on about borings and phase 1, phase 2 studies that supposedly have been done, and that's not really within our purview, but it is a concern that we look at when we're looking at any kind of development of a property of this size. And yes, this is significant, and not to repeat what Commissioner Kirsch said, we need to get this right, and it's not right now, in my view.
Go ahead. I'll write them down.
So I will be the first to take the other side of this. I've been on this commission now for, I think this is my 3rd year. This is the 2nd time I've seen an application before this property. And I think at the last time that we considered an application here, I made the point that Highland Park does not have an up-to-date master plan. And it's frustrating to me because that should be a roadmap that points to what we want to see developed here and throughout the rest of Highland Park, and it has to be frustrating to those who actually want to develop here in Highland Park. And so absent a indication from the city on where we want things to go, we're asking a developer or developers to come up with your best idea, let us kick it around, and that is an impossible idea to expect someone to meet. You know, I think with regard to asking for financials on the property and pro formas for developments, like, I understand the idea, but you can't ask a private business to share that and predicate development agreements or approvals on those. And with regard to things like environmental concerns, I'm a commercial real estate lender. There's not a lender in the world who is going to give you money to build something without first satisfying phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, should those necessary studies recommend further investigation. And so I understand that concern. That concern is valid and it is real, but I think that there are guardrails in place from people who are actually going to write the checks that are going to require those things to be done. I think traffic is a huge concern, and I said it at the last meeting. I am not a traffic engineer. I'm not a traffic consultant. I have to rely on the professionals that do this day in and day out. That's why the city hires third-party consultants like Civil Tech, so that we can be advised, right? We can't expect KLOA to, necessarily do everything for us. They're going to represent the interests of their client. We have third-party people reviewing to make sure that we're protected, and I have to rely on them. I can't simply say that, this is a problem or not a problem without having that background. And then density, right? I totally understand the point about density. And again, there's no right answer, right? We have not thought through that in our zoning code. We've been giving it our best guess to say, well, this community did 5 units per acre and that community did 14 units per acre, and come up with what the right answer is. And it's subjective, not objective. And so we have to use our best guess to figure out what's right. And again, we don't have any indication. We're kind of shooting from the hip here and hoping that we get a qualified developer to come in to put forward a good faith proposal on what can work here. And I'm reluctant to say, like, no, we should just let it go, right? That is concerning to me. I think this is probably the highest and best use for the property. And, you know, even a slight reduction in zoning is not going to eliminate the concerns about traffic and everything else. And so, for all those reasons in their totality, I'm supportive of this project and would vote in favor of moving this forward.
Yeah, as long as we're going on a line.
You don't have to, I'm just offering, it's just helpful so I can see where we're at.
It's past my bedtime. I will do my best. I don't know if I can speak as eloquently as everyone else down the line, but I'm sort of on the fence in this project. Like, part of me hates it, part of me is amenable to it. You know, as I've opined in over the last 5 months in which we've discussed this project, I'm really not a fan of the clustering of the units, though I do understand we're kind of stuck given the heritage and trees and all the land around it, because in my viewpoint, it's just a giant parking lot with some townhouses on it and doesn't really fit what my viewpoint of what should be in Highland Park. And I'm mildly offended at the statement in the packet around that it's critical to have parking in the clubhouse so the residents in the southern part of the property can drive the 1/10 of a mile, which is like 1,000 feet, and takes them 2 minutes to walk. Like, that's just mind-boggling to me. Like, just walk the 2 damn blocks, or not even. It's walk a block. And for me, just wanting to see more green space interior-wise, just to make it a more happier, better place for families to live. I understand everyone's concerns around parking, and as Commissioner Mantis stated, like, none of us are traffic engineers or experts, and we have to rely on what we see. And so unless there's a cabal of traffic engineers that are all just kind of spewing fake numbers, like, we got to deal with what we get from the independent parties and the like. And so it's hard for us to kind of, like, the eye test, I understand Ridge is backed up, but it's, again, hard to quantify exactly the impact it's going to make without this actually being built, unless we're relying on the numbers. And so unless there's another traffic study that's, came from the public that said otherwise, it's hard to look against what's been provided. But yeah, so I'm sort of on the fence of this. Like, I'm not a fan of development. I think it could be improved mightily. But I also don't want, perfect to get in the way of good and have nothing sit here for another, 10, 15, 20 years. So that's kind of my sleep-deprived point of view.
I'll go last. Go ahead.
Is that a yes or no, or on the fence?
Well, I will remind us that
I'm not voting.
when we voted last week to do findings of fact, we were 4-3. So already, we're sitting on the fence.
Yeah, I'm still on the fence.
Yeah, all right.
I was on the fence prior to this meeting, and this meeting, I would say at this hour, which is late for me, I should be in bed right now, but at this hour, I am a no. I think a lot of the public comment was compelling, not because necessarily there were like epiphanies brought forward in the public comment, but because the exact same things have been brought forward 5 times or however many times we've had public comment, and they haven't been addressed the way that they should have been. And I think we have also made comments as a commission multiple times that have not been addressed the way they should have been. I'm an urban planner, so my background is really in, best practices for these types of developments and what the city should be when it grows up. And to Commissioner Manis's point, the master planning aspect of this is missing. We don't have good direction for developers and other folks to know what we should be doing with these big parcels of land. But I know we can do better than what we have here, and I know we can get more connectivity, more conservation, more green space, better quality of life for the folks who might live in this development at some point in time. And just, I need to respond to some of the comments that folks were making about renters being in these units. they made me really uncomfortable because I think a lot of us were renters at some point in time and can use that type of housing. And so just wanting to kind of push back on that and say that we should be an inclusive community that welcomes all kinds of folks who need different types of housing. And so, yeah, someone in the public said we should be listening carefully to everything that everyone says. I think we did that. We've done that for lots of hours at this point, listening to everyone and to each other. And I just don't know that we've been afforded that same listening from the developer team. And I'm uncomfortable about that, and I don't support it because I haven't seen enough progress or enough of the needle moving toward what we've been asking for in order to be in favor.
I will make also the comment that, you know, if we have renters and we are good to renters, they will come back and buy. And I am a person who used to rent in Highland Park, moved away for a short time, and then came back and bought, and I've been here for 27, 28 years now, longer than I've lived anywhere else. So, you know, I don't think we should be shying away from renters. All right, so I'm not hearing enough that we can move this forward tonight, so I think we need to get a motion to, what's the word I'm looking for, not postpone. Continue the meeting to,
Madam Chair,
yes.
before we do that, and I think, again, in fairness to the applicant, we've been through 5 meetings, and look, like, I think anybody listening to our comments, taking our temperature, sees kind of where the commission's at. I think one of the things that perhaps we've failed to do as a commission is give very clear thought to the applicant in terms of what we would like to see. Like, very clear, not ideas or you know, aspirations, but instead, we want to see X, Y, and Z to see if that is something that they can hit, if they are even still interested in continuing to do this.
So, and I think the question would be, what do you need to see to make the needle move? Oh, and that's a question we should
I'm
ask.
good.
Sure.
Well-
I guess
Yeah, like,
that's a question that our commission should be answering back. What do we need to see to make this go?
like I said, I'd like to see more of a concise plan of taking some of the burden off of the neighborhood. As far as traffic, I'd like to see an updated and recalculated traffic plan that takes into account not just Sherwood School reopening, but also the new Westridge Center.
Yeah, the Park District.
You know,
Because I think the Park District is gonna have new baseball fields too.
there's gonna be a lot more activity there, but I even said on day one, I was concerned about the bikers and the traffic with the bike, and
Yeah.
I never really saw anything come back with that. So I think, you know, again, on mine is really the traffic. I need to see it, I know what it's like over there. And it just gets backed up on a normal school day. So now thinking that Sherwood's gonna be back reopened,
Yeah.
that makes me very, very nervous. Again, the density, you know, I don't know what the right number is, but for me, you know, the cause and effect of the more dense it is the more burden that it's gonna put on the traffic in the neighborhood. So is the number 232, is it 220, is it 178 that I heard being thrown? I don't know, but I just need to see what the actual effect is coming off of however many units they have in there. And I don't know if that's actually clear information, but it's
Right.
my thoughts, yeah.
Anybody else want to opine on that?
You know, I'll get 2 cents in here. We have to Commissioner Manda's point, we have to rely to a certain extent on the information we get from people who are more expert on this. I can only relate that when Fort Sheridan developed residences, School District 112, on which I sat at the time, totally miscalculated the number of kids that would be coming out of the fort. It happens. So, you know, we have to rely on some of that. Certainly, you know, traffic's an issue in this neighborhood. It's been an issue for a long time. This isn't going to help it. It's a bigger issue than just this development, in my opinion. But I think to my colleagues' comments, is this the best we can do? And my predecessors on this commission have probably thought about that because there have been at least, what, 2 other applications for this property?
So long as I've been here.
And neither one of them hit the mark. This is close, I think. I think this is close. But it doesn't quite make it in my estimation. And you know, when I was in another lifetime, when we had issues like this where the commission was divided but seemed to be giving a message to the applicant, we frequently would say, you've heard what the board is saying or what the commission is saying, and we can continue it, or somebody will make a motion to pass on these findings of fact. And I think that, without presupposing what my colleagues are going to do, it's going to get voted down, which has its own consequence. So the question becomes to the applicant, have you heard not only what the public has said, but what the sense of the commission is, and does it pay, or is it fruitful for us to continue this meeting to a date certain, so you can go back and give it some thought and talk to your clients and the other people who are involved in making this decision. That's really what it comes down to, in my estimation.
Chair, that's, I think, the correct move. The applicant should provide some input as to their preference on whether they want this continued or whether they'd like a vote up or down tonight.
Okay. Would the applicant wish to speak to that?
Yes, thanks for the opportunity. I mean, I think we would like to hear a little bit more from, I know we've heard from 2 people so far, and all we've heard so far is an updated traffic study proving out the not additional burden and additional analysis of the density. With all due respect to Commissioner Henry, it sounds like we're close, and you know, he said, I think we're close, but is this the best we can do? We need to know kind of what would move the needle, as well as from other people. I think it's unfair to say we haven't listened. We spent extensive time at the last hearing last month detailing all the changes that we've made. You know, like someone noted, we started this process back in October of last year. We didn't just sit around for 5 months. We spent dozens, if not hundreds of hours with our consultants and the city's consultants going back and forth and having the project vetted by all of the consultants. And we've now spent, you know, between the 5 meetings, over a dozen hours in public meetings with, and I don't feel like we've gotten the clear direction that we're looking for to give us, to you know, inform whether or not we would want to just get a vote tonight, or if there is, with clear direction, an opportunity for us to come back in a month. So could we get a little bit more clarity on what specifically we'd be looking for, and then we can make that decision?
I think if I speak for the commission, I think there's still a feeling that there's just too many buildings in this space, and maybe pulling some of them out and filling them in with more green space would help. And we do appreciate that. I think originally when you came here with looking at 240 townhomes, and now we're down to 232, that maybe if we drop it a little bit, well, I don't think it's fair to make you try to drop it to like 178, which I know is what, if it were R7, that's what would fit there, but, you know, so.
If it's fair or unfair?
What was that?
What is fair or unfair?
I think that if that is the line in the sand that it needs to be a reminder, we're not just down 10 units. We've dropped 30 units through over the last year.
Okay.
But I think if it is, we need to get down to something like 178, we'd prefer to just get a vote and continue on through the process.
Okay. So with that said, you've heard that we would like to see fewer buildings, and I would suggest that we continue the meeting till the 9th of September.
Will there be a quorum for that evening, Chair?
Are people around
Sure.
on the 9th?
Can we comment from all this?
Oh, yeah, all right.
Chair,
Oh,
Chair, instead of continuing, can the applicant be heard on whether or not a continuance is fruitful?
Oh,
Yeah, I don't think that there's any point in doing a continuance if the only way to change the is to drop to 178. So I think, out of respect for the commission's time as well, if that's the direction, then we would prefer that we get a vote rather than be continued tonight.
okay.
I mean, that's not.
Said I don't,
I'm not set on a number like 170.
no, I don't think anyone's set on a number.
I think we're close.
It's just because that's what the, that's,
I need to see.
Through the chair, through the chair,
yeah.
through the chair.
Okay, we're done with public comment for right now. So we're just gonna sort this out. We're already well over our time limit for the meeting. We're just gonna have our chat with the applicant and amongst ourselves. Okay.
My name's Zach Zoller. I'm with the Habitat Company.
Okay,
I just want to be very clear that 178 units will not work for this project. And we will have to, take this all the way through to a conclusion with City Council. And wherever that number ends up landing is where it lands.
okay,
But it cannot be forgotten that the existing zoning on this property is industrial, and there is still a pending application with the owner of the property. We are trying our best to work with you all. We've come back, we've made significant changes. I know this has been a long process and the changes do get forgotten, but we can relive those one more time, and there is not much more density we can get rid of from the 232. I want to be very clear on that. We're
Okay.
not even in the ballpark of 178.
okay. When we don't see any numbers and we don't see numbers for sale units versus rental units, it's hard for us to understand where you're coming from.
Understood.
So that's why I think there's some, I don't want to say confusion, but that's why we may appear to be bulky, because we're not seeing the numbers that you're seeing, and we're not hearing why this works and something else doesn't work. Commissioner
Chair,
Henry.
I understand what you're saying, and I don't think this commission is saying 178 is the magic number.
No.
But we have not seen anything compelling that says that 232 is the compelling number, is the reasonable number. I'm a lawyer. I look for facts. Facts mean something to me, and I can make a decision on that. And maybe 232 is the number. I don't know the answer to that, but none of us know the answer to that question.
And I think that's where we would like some direction on what exactly, to Commissioner Mantis's point, I think it would be entirely inappropriate for this commission to base your entire decision on our pro forma or our economics. These deals are very complicated. There's a lot that goes into it. 232 is not just, a magic number that came out of a pro forma. It was also what fits on the site. What can go, where can the buildings go while preserving the heritage trees, while providing 2 times the open space required by the code, over 2 times. And I would argue the open space we're providing has more of a public benefit because it's actually public facing to the entire neighborhood, not only serving our development. If we move that all interior, we'd be getting pushback for that reason. So we think it's actually in the best place to maximize public benefit. So if it's not, I don't think that it's appropriate, nor is it a standard of approval that we open up our private company pro formas when it's much more complex than that. And really what this commission should be reviewing is whether we meet the standards of approval and if this proposal is appropriate for this site, which we think has been validated by all of the professional studies we've been provided, which appropriately so have been reviewed and approved by your professional staff, both internal at the city and third-party consultants. We're not really sure what else we can do because it's not shaving it down to 178. That's no project. You get a vacant site for another 15 years. You do not get this project at 178. So we need more information. What would it be other than opening up, showing you our pro forma? Because that's entirely inappropriate of a request and not something that even speaks to the standards. We're talking about the site plan and what we're proposing.
All right, thank you. Okay. Oh, comments down here.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, so where I'm at, like, what I would want to see to move forward is just whatever that magic number is of less units, and I don't know what it is. I just want to see more interior green space and less units. In a perfect world, I'd love to see a way of this more of a gridded design, so it's more connective into the greater community, and just less of a auto-oriented development. But that's just my take.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I mean, I just really need to be persuaded that taking into account a new traffic report with the school, with Westridge, that it's really not going to be a burden on increasing the traffic. It's already a bad traffic area, but I just want to see that's not going to be a total increase. Again, I'm close, and you guys, by all accounts, are great and reputable developers, and we'd be lucky to have you develop this parcel in town. It just, we're close. I'm just not there yet. And again, my big hang-up is that we're going to prove this, and 2 years from now, Ridge Road is just a hellhole of traffic. And I'm going to be looking at myself like, oh my God, why didn't we kind of take it one step further to get a little bit more on the traffic side?
Okay.
We'd be willing to update the traffic study with that consideration. But please do not forget the turn lane that is being proposed on Old Deerfield Road, both northbound and southbound, that is being lost in all these discussions and public comments.
No,
They're focused on now, which I understand. We're not lost on now, and that's why we proposed the turn lane to help free up the neighborhood. We are trying to be good neighbors to everybody.
No,
So-
I understand, but it's also, we're adding in, apparently, the school being reopened wasn't taken into account in that. And
Understood.
And so I think there's gonna be a happy medium there, but I just really need to be persuaded that the traffic is no longer gonna be at least an increased burden. I keep saying that word, but to the neighborhood. That's
Yeah, and don't forget the KOA said that there was a growth factor that they put into it. But again, hear your point, and
Yeah.
we can do that if we can come back on the 9th.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Madam Chair, can I make one more comment?
Sure.
I think to Commissioner Nanis's point, it would be really impactful for me to see, did this turn off? Sorry. For me to see kind of a reimagined site plan, if possible, that incorporates that. You are shaking your head no.
I'm sorry, this is the site plan. I don't know how we can reimagine this. I promise you, a ton of time has been spent on looking at this. And if you recall, where we started back in October and where we are today is such a significant difference. And that was done to reorient to create more sense of community versus the barrack style that we initially proposed. But then we started, really getting into the site and how is this going to function and flow? And the result is here. I don't know how else we could change some of this. So Carl, can you pull up the 3D rendering? No, not those. The new images we created for the last meeting.
Were they in the present? Are those in the presentation or?
Yeah, we submitted them to you before the previous meeting.
Oh, they're the ones from the neighborhood, right?
Correct.
Okay, like those?
Yeah, we have other ones.
they in your presentation?
Yeah, they were definitely in the presentation.
Sorry.
Keep going. Keep going. There we go. So this is more the streetscape to show that we are incorporating a lot of trees. To remind everybody, we're doing, I think, almost triple what the requirement is. Carl has the exact numbers of the surplus of landscaping and trees that we're conducting. But this is not the enclave that when you're looking on the site plan, I can understand that perspective, but this is what reality is. This and the following images.
That's their entrance again. Yeah, that's the end.
Keep going on. All right, let's get some. I don't know if they.
Well, and I understand people are frustrated by the enclaviness with it, but you know, there's not much to do with railroad tracks on one side, industrial on another side, and housing on the other two sides. So we're doing our best to make sure that we've included.
The site naturally sets itself up for an enclave, and we're trying to open it up as
Right.
much as we possibly can with the constraints, and also keeping a significant buffer to the other residential communities.
Right. And saving the trees and whatnot. Okay, so one more time, would the commission want to vote tonight, or do they want to, I think we want to postpone
I
till.
think we would continue.
Okay, so can people be here on the
Yeah,
night?
well, right, Chair, I was gonna ask too, and I'm not here to predict votes, but I just, one, there needs to be a quorum, and I'm curious, not only that, but how many members would be present on the 9th?
Anybody else here on the 9th?
Hold on.
Well, I think we've got 5 at least, so,
Yeah.
oh, that would be nice.
So is that 6 or 7? 6 with a maybe for 7, is that what I saw?
Yes.
I'm maybe.
Okay, so I would suggest that we continue it till the 9th. I know people wanted to have answers tonight, but I feel like we're not quite there for whatever reason. I appreciate all the public coming out to speak. Can we get a motion to continue this to the 9th?
I voted down tonight.
Motion approved, continuation to.
Okay, so I have a motion over here with Commissioner Nanas's motion to move it to continue to the 9th. A second down here with Commissioner Fettner. All in favor? Aye. Any nays?
Nay.
No. Okay. Oh, you don't?
No, I'm ready, I will vote it
All right,
down.
so then
No,
that's,
no, we're still having our meeting. We're done with the public for now.
Madam Chair, so this item has been continued to September 9th, 7 PM, this room. Your notice is actual, there will be no new notice for that meeting. September 9th, this room, 7 PM. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Do we have much for an information, for administrative design review update?
no, there's no update for this
Okay.
evening.
No updates.
The next regular meeting will be at City Hall on September 2nd. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Are there any case briefings? Ladies and gentlemen, we are trying to finish our meeting so everyone can go home. You may go home now, but please keep it down so we can finish our business. Thank you. Okay, do we have a case briefing?
No, do not.
Thank you. Is there any other business from the public? Something new and exciting?
This
No,
wasn't enough.
this wasn't enough excitement. All right, in that case, I'll take a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Okay, second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
If there were any nays, the meeting is adjourned.